All right. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about today, obviously. So with all due respect, not every chatter knows you like that. You do have casuals. I know. So I always will explain it. I always will explain it to the casuals out there. For those of you who don't know, what the fuck? Oh my god, ethnic Santa stealing my thunder, stealing my focus every time. Was your last name also Uyghur? No idea how to spell that before your father changed it. No, on my mother's side. On my mother's side, my mother's family's last name is Uyghur. Cenk, my uncle, my mother's brother, his last name is Uyghur, right? You know this already. But yeah, let's blast off. Let's get started because there's, like I said, so much going on. Obviously, we're going to cover the Brown University shooting. Brown Uni shooter found dead. Also connected to the after being connected to the MIT nuke scientist shooting. Very suspicious. MAGA Twitter lies and conspiracies addressed. Epstein files today, ? TPUSA MAGA infighting, Hogwatch, and so much more. Get in now. But yeah, there's a lot to cover today. This is a huge news day, like a huge, massive news day. Even without the Epstein files, there is so much to cover. Do we have a blast off meme from the chat? Grinder went down at the TPUSA event. That's not surprising. Brace coming on today. Yeah, I'm gonna hit him up right now. I'm gonna DM him I'm text him right now and be like, see if he wants to come up. What up, big dog? You look very noir today. You're giving evil twin. Good. Okay, dude. What the fuck? No, don't send me the Chomsky. Stop sending me the Chomsky, the private jet, Jeffrey Epstein thing. Okay. I'm just, Barry Weiss was involved in the infighting. Yeah, we'll cover all of that. Hold on. Stop sending me fucking, what the hell is this? What the hell are you guys doing? What is this, brother? What is happening? This is out of control. Stop it. Enough. AI needs to stop. Okay? AI needs to stop. Is that a leather blazer for indoor streaming? It's got leather patches on it, but it's not a leather blazer. It's like it's a Chinese blazer I got. I'm wearing my full Chinese fit today. This is like my comfort blanket. Okay? Unedited images, brother. Kirkification has taken root in this community, and that's fine. But like, don't Kirkify me, don't Epsteinify me, don't Trumpify me with the Kirkification. That's crazy. Anyway, this is what I used instead. Yeah, your fans versus Maya fans. Why are you inviting a known Epstein associate on stream? Stop. Hold on. Let me text Brace real quick, see if he's down. The shirt is very Mexican unk coated. Yeah. That's not Brace Belden, okay? Yes, the Trump administration will not be releasing the full files today. The bottom line, Trump admin is missing today's legal deadline to release the Epstein files. Blanche says many will be released on a rolling basis over the next couple of weeks. Curious what percentage of total files, several thousands, is. Obviously, they're going to be fucking thwarting all of this stuff. They're drip feeding it to the best of their ability. But I think that actually is going to be that's going to be worse overall. I think that's going to be worse overall. My controversial opinion is if you drip feed the Epstein files slowly but surely, then you literally feed into people's interest. Yeah, you just keep it in the news cycle for longer. If you did one big batch and then you forced a lot of news outlets to just basically go through it and comb through it to the best of their ability and like make the news cycle, that's probably a smarter way to go about it. If it's going to happen, no matter what, the best possible thing to do is dump it and then, dump it, eat it, and then just wait, right? You dump it, you eat it, and then you wait. Except in this circumstance, I think the reason why they don't want to dump it, eat it, and then wait, I suspect it's because they couldn't comb through it fast enough. That's only true if there isn't a lethal bullet in the big batch, something truly obliterating the Trump or others. No, I think the reason why they're not doing that and the reason why they're taking their sweet ass time with it, even though it's actually not advantageous for their desire, for their highest priority being, have the Jeffrey Epstein thing go away, is because I suspect that there is a lot of stuff in there. Like it is tremendously damaging for Donald Trump, I think. And not just for Donald Trump, but for the entire system. I think that there's still a priority here to preserve Trump's, personal feelings, to make sure that he's not too implicated. But also on top of that, I think that there are a lot of, big donors, financial elite, very powerful people that are directly associated with Jeffrey Epstein, as we know. And I think they're just trying to comb through it to the best of their ability and just like chop through it. There's so much info. I suspect that there's a lot of info on there that's bad for Israel, bad for Donald Trump, and bad for the super wealthy. And that's the reason why they're taking their sweet ass time with this, because it literally it actually is not good for them. It's bad for them to continue drip feeding information. And that's where I'm at with the Epstein stuff. Anyway, this is the blast off. I'm gonna pump it again. Like it, retweet it, let the people know that we're live and alive. Fuck Trump, bro. The big guy is fucking Bill Gates and the AI bubble shit. They will take their time until the bubble explodes, and then we will see the Bill Gates inside a little one. Wait, what? From what we have seen so far, every single super wealthy person has been connected to Jeffrey Epstein in a meaningful fashion. Okay. And over again. And they've done it in broad daylight. They've done it in a way that is silly to the average person. Why is it bad for Israel? What do you mean? Why would it be bad for Israel? Jeffrey Epstein was directly working with the nation state of Israel. Jeffrey Epstein played the role of a middleman for the Israeli government on numerous occasions all around the world. Jeffrey Epstein was directly connected to the region had a Saudi passport, had a lot of clients in the UAE, and those Gulf countries are basically ways in which, those countries are how someone who lives in the United States of America would connect to Israel without directly connecting to Israel, except Jeffrey Epstein was also directly connected to Israel. He literally had an Israeli Mossad spy stay in his house over an extended period of time while he was, he was in the United States of America. And also, last but not least, Jeffrey Epstein had Ehud Barak visit him frequently. Now, there's also more information that's come out here as well. This is basically this is, I don't know what more you need to see here. Unfortunately, you don't really get to hear about this. You don't get to hear about this too much in mainstream news, and there's a reason for it. Mainstream media rarely ever entertains this connection. Okay? Mainstream media rarely ever entertains this connection. Yeah, libs will call Trump a Russian agent, but they will never call Trump an Israeli agent, right? Libs will call Trump a Russian agent, and there is enough connection between at least Trump's campaign in 2016 and Russia. There was enough to invite scrutiny. There was enough there for there to be an investigation, right? I've always maintained this position. I'm not like a Russiagate guy. I did not have the Russia derangement syndrome or whatever the fuck people want to call it. But I've always maintained the position that there was absolutely enough evidence that the Trump administration and the Trump campaign was connected to Russian intelligence. Like they did. They openly did, right? They got, they literally talked about it publicly. They talked about it publicly, and it was, what was the name? The Greek guy who just straight up was like, yeah, these Russians are giving us all this fucking hack material. Isn't that awesome about Hillary Clinton? When you say stuff like that, when you say shit like that, it's understandable. Yeah, George Papadopoulos, it's understandable that the intelligence community is going to take a look at that and investigate that, right? There is far more evidence connecting Jeffrey Epstein to the state of Israel. And there's also a lot more evidence connecting Trump to the state of Israel as well. But nobody gives a shit because Israel is not treated in the eyes of mainstream media as a foreign entity, but simply an extension of the United States of America. Even some of the Russiagate investigations that they actually, some of the stones that they turned over in the Russiagate investigation actually showed that there was a fuck ton of botting and influence peddling that was taking place in illicit ways by Israel as well. So, in any case, that is the piece of the puzzle that you rarely ever hear in mainstream news. You only hear it from like DropSite, Democracy Now!, independent news outlets cover that connection, but nobody else does for some weird reason. You rarely ever hear that from the New York fucking Times, for example. Very frustrating. But in any case, does this mean Jeffrey was basically a CIA associate, if not part of the network directly? Yeah, my position on this has always been that he's worked for both of these agencies. You can't operate as a Mossad agent and a Mossad agent alone on U.S. soil with this level of deep connection to American financial elite without also being a part of also being a CIA asset as well. Also, there are plenty of people who have worked both for the CIA and also for Mossad. Benjamin Netanyahu comes to mind, right? You have no proof? Wait, what do you mean? Yes, I only have 7 million emails where Jeffrey Epstein and the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, are talking about selling Israeli surveillance technology to fucking Mongolia or some shit. You know? That's the only proof I have is Jeffrey Epstein being like, I love selling Israeli spyware to America's allies. It's my favorite thing to do. Prime Minister of Israel, don't you also love it when I do that? Just normal circumstantial evidence, a total coincidence. Hey, how did your meeting with Larry Ellison go or David Ellison go? Oh, it went great. I was actually vetting Marco Rubio to make sure he is sufficiently pro-Israel. And guess what? He's a major dick rider of the state of Israel, so he's good in our book. Now I'm going to give him $700 million. Just normal conversations, like stuff like that. There's just a thing that happens all the time. Yeah. Also, here is 68 photos that we took in our beautiful tea ceremony that we did together. Here's another 115 photos we took at this other event called the Super Wealthy Gala. Nothing to see here. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was Mossad too, right? You just didn't mention that specifically? Yes. There was already a lot of evidence tying Jeffrey Epstein to Israel in very meaningful ways. But in this last year, all of those suspicions have basically turned into confirmations, except they don't really talk about it that much. But here, after the Iran-Contra scandal became public in 1986, following the downing of an aircraft in Nicaragua owned by a CIA front called Southern Air Transport, Jeffrey Epstein helped move Southern Air Transport aircraft to a new base in Columbus, Ohio, where they soon began servicing the retail clothing empire of Leslie Wexner, the billionaire fashion magnate who owned Victoria's Secret and Abercrombie & Fitch, and who made Epstein a power of attorney over his vast fortune in 1991. Epstein's inheritance and repurposing of the SAT planes was one of his many connections to actors and episodes in the Iran-Contra scandal. Epstein was also close to individuals heavily involved in the global arms trade like Adnan Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi's father, who was also assassinated. He was assassinated, right? Or he died under mysterious circumstances. Douglas Lee's, who were known or alleged to have been involved in Iran-Contra. A New York Times profile recently revealed that he also lived during the 80s with John Stanley Pottinger, a lawyer who, the Times did not mention, was involved at the same time in helping traffic weapons to Iran under the aegis of the CIA. Epstein took over the Wexner fortune shortly after Wexner came under scrutiny for the mafia-style murder of a lawyer connected with his company named Arthur Shapiro. The story of his connections to Iran-Contra is told here through the story of the SAT aircraft, suppressed police records from Columbus, Ohio, and private emails from Epstein's own leaked Yahoo Mail inbox. The Iran-Contra planes landed at Les Wexner's base. I'm just going to say it again. Nothing to see here, folks. Totally normal stuff. Totally normal stuff. Here, why aren't you watching Trump's speech? I don't know, because he's fucking talking about some bullshit. Here, we'll tune in now.
There's another way of doing it, and that's getting the insurance companies to ease up and to cut their pricing way, way down and stay part of the system. So I'm going to call a meeting. It could be in Florida this coming week, or it could be back in the White House the first week, not the second or third week. I'm going to call a meeting of the big insurance companies that have gotten so rich by receiving money and really much far, far more money than they're entitled to. And I have a feeling maybe if they would act
More
like
Pegasus
these
gonna have a field day.
Responsible citizens.
You're
behind
cooked.
me,
He's gonna make a video on
people
you.
that
I'm so
love our country,
confused.
and
What?
they love the world. I mean, frankly, they love, these are international companies for the most part. I'm going to call a meeting of the insurance companies. I'm going to see if they get their price down, to put it very bluntly.
I don't understand this stuff.
And I think that is a very big statement.
Like, do you think that dude is a political commentary person or something? Like, is that what you think this dude is? More Pegasus is pro Epstein? Oh, hell yeah. That's great. Like, I don't understand why people will openly say this kind of stuff. Like, you probably should be a little bit more embarrassed to say that this is where you get your news from, you know? Bring back shame.
Cut them out and let it all go awry. So we're going to be calling a meeting. It'll be either in Florida or it'll be here the first week. And I'd prefer not talking and asking questions, only for the reason that this is such a big announcement, meaning what these people have said and what the other four companies are going to say, which is exactly the same thing, that I really don't want to
yeah, I'll be over here talking about, like, you know, a very famous international sex trafficker and his connections and his deep connections to foreign and domestic intelligence agencies, and how mainstream news is actually refusing to cover this connection for some weird reason. And then there'll be like a bunch of morons in the chat being like, dude, you're about to get so fucking owned by some drama slop tuber that I have no shame in admitting is my only form of news, is how I learn the news. Okay, good luck. I don't know. I hope you're enjoying it, you know?
Sector, and we've cut tremendous numbers of government jobs, and that's why, if you look at our numbers, they're so good. Also, more than, I don't know if you've read this, came out a week ago, more than 50% of our trade deficit was cut.
Trump says no questions.
Yeah. In a period of a few months. Nobody thought any of these things were possible. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah, nobody. Oh, no questions. No questions. No questions. Thank you, press. Lower drug price for Americans. No questions. Interesting. Anyway, there's obviously some pretty big stories to cover today. Gonna get started on that stuff before we get to the president and the Epstein files and you know, whether they're gonna leak it or not. I would like to see more hard evidence for the intelligence stuff. To be honest, it's almost definitely true, but all the evidence so far is speculative. I can't imagine the state would let stronger evidence come out, though. Yeah, of course. I think the amount of evidence that we've gotten so far is already unimaginable. And the only reason why we have all of this extra evidence is because I suspect it was the work of Iranian hackers. I don't know exactly who hacked into Jeffrey Epstein's email and just like dumped all of that. But think about how much evidence we have gotten about someone who very likely is one of the most important intelligence assets in the 2000s and in the 90s, right? I think it was Iranian hackers. W to the Iranian hackers. That was big time. But it is pretty wild, because there is so much. There's even more information that we don't know that's already out there, right? I am endlessly frustrated. I'm endlessly frustrated at the abdication of duty from mainstream media on this stuff. It is incredibly fucking annoying. Chatter's asking for you to build a time traveling device to go back and be there in person themselves. They think they're short on evidence at the moment. Yeah. I think that this is the most amount of evidence we're probably going to get on something like this. I've talked about this already. Like the coverage that you see on mainstream news about the Epstein stuff is very carefully and meticulously crafted because they rarely factor in the connective tissue between Jeffrey Epstein and a bunch of financial elite in the United States of America. And they also very rarely, if at all, mention Epstein's deep connections to Israeli intelligence. Okay? And I think that's the reason why they hyper focus on all this other stuff, because it's such a target rich environment. It's such a target rich environment. There's so much there that you can focus on some of the more interesting stuff that's interesting to the American audience while omitting key details and even hand wave that away as though it's purely speculative, right? Even though it's not. At this point, we've moved beyond speculation. Like you could have said maybe this kind of stuff is speculative because, you know, Ehud Barak was pictured going in and out of the Epstein Manor in New York in 2016, doing a very shitty job covering up his face, right? Because that kind of stuff was enough for many people to go, why the fuck is the former prime minister of Israel visiting an international sex trafficker who may or may not be connected to the Mossad at this point? Like, why the fuck's this happening? Like, that was already enough to invite scrutiny, right? That was already enough for people to go, that's weird. That's a strange thing, right? And even beyond that, very strange relationship, now we have a fuck ton of emails between the two. We now know what that relationship looked like. Okay? We now know what that relationship entailed. What was he doing? What was Israel getting out of it? What was Jeffrey Epstein getting out of these meetings? What were the goals? And it's crazy to me that this relationship is not scrutinized further or even brought up all that much. I think it's by design. And that's the reason why you hear about the Epstein stuff, but you rarely ever hear about the full scope of his relationships. Just as, a guy who conned a bunch of rich people. Like, I think that's the angle that you see from the New York Times. And it's somewhat frustrating to encounter. But the angle that the New York Times' coverage leans into is Jeffrey Epstein was a very wealthy, very connected super pedophile who conned his way into a network of super wealthy people, and he consistently leveled up his con, and that's how he was able to generate all this wealth, right? And I don't think that that's the full story. I think that's part of it, right? It's certainly part of it, but that's not the full story at all. Robert Maxwell wasn't just probably an asset. He was a super spy who worked for multiple countries before becoming an Israeli spy. Oh yeah, no. Robert Maxwell's, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, Robert Maxwell's association with Israel is firmly established. That's not speculative at all. Robert Maxwell abso-fucking-lutely. I mean, he was OSS, and then he worked both for Mossad and the British intelligence and even the American intelligence as well. He had connections with the KGB. He was a super spy. He used all of his connections from the OSS, which is the earliest formation of these intelligence, like the foreign intelligence community, the foreign intelligence services during World War II, to have these very firmly established ties with every single one of these countries. And no, it's not an allegation to say that he was an Israeli spy. That I don't think it's an allegation. The level of proof that you want for that is basically pay stubs, and you're never going to get that. That's my point. Like, you're never going to see fucking literal pay stubs with declassified information from the Mossad being like, yes, he was a formative figure in arresting the guy who leaked the Israeli nuclear program, who's still kept in fucking house prison in Israel to this day. You know, like that kind of stuff. That you're never like you. No, it's not Jonathan Pollard. No, I'm talking about the other guy, Mordechai Vanunu, who Mordechai Vanunu is the guy I'm talking about, who leaked that Israel had nukes, basically, and nuked the Israeli or leaked the Israeli nuclear program, and then Robert Maxwell directly fucking got him arrested and apprehended and shipped to the state of Israel using his media empire at the time to set him up. Listening to all this makes me understand how easy it is to fall into anti-Semitism. Israel PR team is sucking dick. Yeah, but I think it would be different if NPR, for example, wasn't immediately hand-waving all this shit away and saying, this is an anti-Semitic conspiracy. I think when the NPR, when all of the serious news broadcasters hand-wave all these connections away by saying, this is an anti-Semitic conspiracy, that's when people go, I guess there is something additional happening here. I guess there's more manipulation happening here. What is that manipulation happening at the behest of? The Israeli state or Jews? And that's usually when people go, oh, Jews do control the media. Do you see what I mean? I want to see Epstein talking with an established asset or about an operation in some way. I still believe is true, but it doesn't fully hold up yet. The media is scared of sounding like conspiracy theorists and anti-Semites. I don't think it's necessarily that. I think there's a lot of people in the media, especially in the lower levels, like enterprising journalists who actually want to do investigative reporting and contentious or adversarial journalism, are oftentimes shut out from being able to pursue these sorts of leads, and that is because all of the people at the higher levels in these media companies are a part of the same in-group, and they go to the same fucking meetings. They get photographed like David Brooks at the fucking billionaire summit sitting next to Jeffrey Epstein, or all of the New York Times reporters that were straight up feeding information to Jeffrey Epstein, as we know, feeding information to Jeffrey Epstein's private email about other investigations that were taking place. Even fucking Woodward, Bob Woodward, who was supposed to be cracking this Epstein case personally, he was supposed to be this profound investigative reporter, was literally giving Jeffrey Epstein leads about all of these other people that were looking into him so that he could do PR around it. So when you have a system that is designed like that, where everybody basically goes, well, this guy's pretty fucking famous, this guy's pretty fucking powerful, I don't want to upset him because I think he could be a very valuable asset for me down the line. Like, not saying that these guys are all in on the CIA conspiracy or anything like that, but it gets to a point where you're just like, well, isn't that strange that so many people in the media that are supposed to be investigating Epstein, some people who are directly investigating Epstein, okay, some people who are directly writing about Jeffrey Epstein, or it wasn't Bob Woodward, sorry, it was Michael Wolff. Did I fuck that up? I'm sorry. I always get the two confused. Apologies. It was Michael Wolff. I've done this so many fucking times. Okay? I have made this mistake a million times at this point. Yeah, it was Michael Wolff, the one who was talking about the one who also did pieces on. Michael Wolff was doing the last Daily Beast drop that came out on Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? And and then you look at the private correspondence between Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein, and he's straight up in his fucking DMs, he's straight up in his emails being like, this person is coming after you, that person is coming after you. And that's when you realize why a lot of these people are still so worried. A lot of these people are still so worried about cracking this case wide open for personal ambition. Michael Wolff is Jeffrey Epstein's Olivia Nuzzi. That's funny. Yeah, they were fucking. I don't think they were, but there are a lot of high profile reporters that are straight up emailing Jeffrey Epstein with regular frequency, and I would say going far beyond the professional ethics standards that journalists are supposed to abide by. I know that journalists will say, well, Jeffrey Epstein was a high profile person, and of course we had to establish contact with him, and he was a very important asset in a lot of stories or whatever. He was a connector, And, you know, that's the reason why we were consistently in talks with one another. But when you look at the actual conversations, it's collaborative. Okay. There's a difference between trying to get information from Jeffrey Epstein versus giving him information about private investigators that are literally looking into his background, specifically around the sexual misconduct that he is engaged in. If you are a New York Times reporter, you should never be revealing other colleagues, even at competitive outlets, trying to look into your background like that. That's crazy. But that is where a lot of this stuff comes from, okay? And if you're wondering why, exactly as Adam Johnson reported on, Wall Street Journal editorial board opposes releasing the Epstein files. Washington Post editorial board opposes releasing the Epstein files. New York Times editorial board, in true New York Times fashion, conflicted about the release of these files. The very fact that, for example, as we talked about yesterday extensively, this new tranche of Jeffrey Epstein photos that was released, right? The new tranche of photos that were released showed that, you know, some of y'all's faves were definitionally implicated. Okay, definitely implicated. The one that comes to mind, obviously, is fucking David Brooks. David Brooks straight up wrote an article about how you should not be, you shouldn't be focusing on the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. New York Times columnist exposing Epstein photos after bashing file dump. I mean, this is crazy. You didn't think to reveal that you had met him in the fucking op-ed that you were writing for the New York Times? Really? I think that's crazy. Something I've noticed in the media reporting so far is that they're very deliberate to say appearance in these photos and text does not necessarily suggest illegal activities. I'm assuming not only elite connections, but also fear of being sued to hell. For sure. I mean, I've said this already. Not every single person that's like photographed next to Jeffrey Epstein was literally doing pedophilia. I'm not saying that at all. I think, as a matter of fact, while the child sex trafficking is the most, is the thing that understandably more people are invested in and trying to uncover the details of, the far longer running crime for Jeffrey Epstein was the financial dealings. That's why I always say the paper trail that is out there and the relationships that Jeffrey Epstein cultivated with financial elite that went beyond simply sex trafficking minors. That is also the other side of the story. What was the involvement? What was the involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? What was Jeffrey Epstein offering these people? These are the questions that I think a lot of people don't ask. Anyway, yeah, the sex trafficking aspect of it, both for the adults and the minors, is obviously the darkest part of the story, is the scariest, most insane part of the story. But not every single person was engaged in that, that was photographed alongside Jeffrey Epstein. And that's not something that I believe. That's not something that I've ever said. Having said that, it is obvious that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset, right? And as an intelligence asset, what was the level of involvement that he had with all these people that he was being photographed with? It's crazy. How incriminating are these photos of Brooks actually? He said he went as a reporter and isn't seen as frolicking with rich guys. No, that's my point isn't that he went to that event, okay? If you are a media figure, if you're a reporter, if you're investigating stuff, you're going to be around a lot of weird people. You're going to be around a lot of illicit, like people engaging in like illicit activities and things like that. Nobody would give a shit that David Brooks was photographed there if David Brooks hadn't come out a couple months prior and in the eve of the potential release of the Epstein files and written an entire article in the New York Times editorial, New York Times' opinion editorial section saying Jeffrey Epstein files release, count me out. Don't want to see it. Do you see what I mean? And then even when he was delivering an argument about why it's silly and people shouldn't, yeah, Brooks probably did not do anything egregious, but it's hilarious to be the guy. Exactly. It's hilarious to be the guy saying, let's stop talking about this Jeffrey Epstein shit. And then a month later, there's photos of you smiling ear to ear next to Jeffrey Epstein at a fucking shadowy billionaire meeting, is crazy. Even with like Noam Chomsky, people are surprised. I was certainly surprised. I did not realize how fucking extensive their back and forth correspondence and direct involvement was. But at least Noam Chomsky isn't running around being like, nobody should talk about Jeffrey Epstein, please, enough. You know? Do you see what I mean? And that's perhaps that's the reason why no one is talking about Sergey Brin, who was also sitting next to David Brooks at that fucking Jeffrey Epstein meetup. Jeff Bezos was there too. Maybe because none of those guys are running around being like, hey, this Jeffrey Epstein stuff, don't talk about it anymore. It's enough. It's a non-issue. It's old news. I'd go so far as to say that it's the same principle behind Donald Trump. Donald Trump ran on maybe releasing the Epstein files, or certainly ran on a whole bunch of conspiracies. So then once he actually came into power, when he started going, Jeffrey Epstein, that guy, why are you still talking about him? Nobody cares. It's a hoax. Hide. Bish. Nobody cares about him. You're still talking about that guy. Nobody cares. Of course, everyone's going to be like, dude, what the fuck? You're in like 1,000 photos with him. What do you mean nobody cares about it? We thought you cared about it. This is absolutely in your fucking wheelhouse of shit to care about. You cared about it when everybody was like, Epstein is hanging out with Bill Clinton, but all of a sudden now nobody's talking about it. Nobody should be talking about it when it's you also hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Anyway, so yeah, that's the Epstein stuff, which we obviously will be getting back to. But before we do that, there's another suspicious set of circumstances that took place. The Brown University shooting suspect was found dead. Now, for those of you who have been paying attention, this story obviously got a lot of scrutiny. I talked about it extensively for the past 2 days. There was a school shooting that took place in Brown University, and then shortly thereafter, there was another MIT professor that was shot and killed outside of his apartment. That was, like an hour away in Brookline. And it was odd that it happened in such close proximity, but I guess many people, myself included, thought these two things can't be connected because it's the United States of America. Shootings happen all the fucking time. Well, then the FBI first found a person of interest, okay, and then released the person of interest. The name of the person of interest got leaked in the process. So then there was a manhunt for like, some random white dude with a bunch of guns at a fucking hotel that had traveled from Wisconsin. That's already suspicious to me. I don't know what the fuck was going on there. Whatever, right? And then they were like, hey, by the way, we lied. We don't actually have a suspect at all. Please help us. And the absurd incompetence did not stop there. And it turns out the way that they actually found the shooter was because of a random guy, a random bystander who actually confronted the shooter and then posted about it on Reddit. So it was an actual we did it Reddit moment, because the FBI is that fucking incompetent nowadays that they unironically do rely on we did it Reddit moments, it turns out. Okay? I'm going to get into the detail now, but before I do, while there was a lot of scrutiny over the FBI's mishandling of yet another high-profile investigation, Twitter went crazy with it. And it wasn't just Twitter, but it was also a bunch of mainstream outlets as well that went crazy with this. They immediately shifted the blame over to a random queer Palestinian student from Brown University, which led to Brown University actually deleting this person's profile off of their websites because he was getting doxxed for no fucking reason. Okay? It was completely made up. The notion that the shooter actually ran around saying Allahu Akbar, also completely made up by Laura Loomer. Shouts out to Laura Loomer, for the record. Apparently the shooter was like barking or something. I don't know. We don't know the full details, but like they were so adamant that the shooter was saying Allahu Akbar. The shooter was actually Muslim. The shooter was doing this for Palestine, all this shit. And not only that, but also even the MIT professor. Even the MIT professor that was shot and killed outside of his home that was working on like nuclear fusion technology, a lot of Israeli outlets, including Jerusalem Post and many others, misreported as being Jewish. Okay? And that he was shot potentially for his pro-Israel stance. It blew my fucking mind. There were people in this chat who were like, just like, well, don't you think this guy is Jewish though? Like, what's happening here? And I was like, guys, I don't know if he's Jewish or not, but it's insane to immediately assume that a nuclear scientist from MIT is being killed for being Jewish and not potentially for being a nuclear scientist from MIT, right? Especially at a time when, Israel is popping nuclear scientists in Iran like Skittles, and that there could be some sort of international retaliation towards that sort of thing, both for the United States of America and for Israel as well. So, like, the notion that this was an anti-Semitic hate crime was far, far less likely than many other speculative leads that you could entertain. So, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because misinformation went fucking wild. Okay, misinformation went wild, and it wasn't just right-wingers, even though it was mostly right-wingers. Like, every fucking MAGA account on this platform analyzed both of these different shootings from their own politically biased perspectives. Many of them tried to imply that initially the professor that normally lectures in the lecture hall is a Jewish professor, and this was a suspected anti-Semitic hate crime for that reason. And then they were like, okay, the professor actually wasn't there and didn't get shot, but it was actually the students that were killed. One of the students that was killed was the vice president of the college Republican club, and maybe it's a Democrat conspiracy for that reason. And then also everyone was like, oh, this is a pro-Palestine, free Palestine shooter, clearly, right? All this crazy shit, entirely fabricated. Not a moment was wasted. Not a moment was fucking wasted on this shit. And I cannot believe it. And it probably even played a role in fucking up the leads that these guys needed, that the authorities needed to pursue the actual suspect. People were asking Grok. Yes, exactly. It's that fucking stupid. People were asking Grok. There was deliberate misinformation being spread. I said, I cannot believe how much the Israeli media and virtually every single major MAGA account made shit up about both the Brown University and MIT nuclear scientist shooting. I know they lie a lot, but this fever pitch seemed new. Dylan Saba says, from now on, every single act of public violence will be interpreted or reinterpreted as a justification for why we need permanent genocide. NSEG mindset. And it's true. It's absolutely true. Like, what are we doing? How does this suit the benefit of justifying unlimited support to Israel? Should not be the first fucking consideration for a lot of these people. Even like the notion that this is a byproduct of Islamic refugees coming to the country, like all this stuff, like heightened Islamophobia, all of this shit, it blows my fucking mind. It is devastating. Did you see as soon as the guy's identity and background came out, Trump shut down the visa program that the guy benefited from, even though he benefited from it in 2017 under Trump? Yeah, I know. They're trying to do a anti-Portuguese slant now. Instead of they licked their wounds and they're back at it. Okay? But now the strangeness doesn't stop there. Because there is a strangeness with the way things have unfolded. Make no mistake. It's just not in the direction that these fucking charlatans were leaning into. Okay? So that's the other side of this story. Because while, Jerusalem Post and all these other people were like fucking running around and claiming that this was, an anti-Semitic hate crime potentially, or all this other shit, right? And then, Laura Loomer was saying this is a byproduct of like Islamic migration into the country, and we need to put an end to it, all this stuff. This seemingly unconnected, these seemingly unconnected two different instances of violence was actually connected to one another, apparently, according to the officials confirming that the Brown University shooting and the MIT professor being shot and killed was actually conducted by the same person. They revealed this information yesterday, inviting even more scrutiny, inviting even more suspicion. And then they found him. Last night, they found the guy who apparently had died in a New Hampshire storage facility. where he, according to the officials, had killed himself. Now that smells weird. Okay? That is a very strange situation. It is crazy that these two seemingly unconnected shootings were actually connected to one another. And then also on top of that, it was the same guy that did it. And we can't even establish like a decent motive for why he did both, except for his background. It turns out that he wasn't the shooter for both of these incidents wasn't actually an Islamic refugee, but seemingly a Portuguese former student of Brown University, a high achiever who was very resentful. That's the official narrative that they're giving right now. But let's take a look.
We got him.
This morning, the man who authorities said killed 2 Brown University students and then an MIT professor is dead after killing himself inside a storage unit where he may have hunkered down for days.
Our Providence neighbors can finally breathe a little easier.
The body of 48-year-old Claudio Neves Valente was found Thursday night in a storage unit he rented in November. Officials say he was born in Portugal, became a lawful permanent resident of the United States living in Miami, and for a time studied physics at Brown.
He was admitted to Brown's graduate school to study in a Master's of Science PhD program in physics, beginning on September 1st, 2000. And he took a leave of absence effective April 2001 before formally withdrawing effective July 31st, 2003.
Authorities say this is Neves.
What connects this shooter to Brown is that he went there for a year and then dropped out. And what connects him to the other Portuguese nuclear scientists is that they went to undergrad together in Portugal. But that's from 20 fucking years ago, or even longer than 20 years ago. Why would this resentment carry over for 2 fucking decades plus? And then one day he just snaps and decides to conduct this fairly sophisticated operation. Because this wasn't like the Brown University shooting, with the exception of being able to get away, with the shooter being able to get away and like casing it ahead of time, knowing where the cameras are, knowing that the place where he was conducting the shooting was didn't have as many cameras in the specific part of the building that he did the shooting in, and then only to immediately leave and then go to Brookline to identify and target another Portuguese professor that he despised that was working on like nuclear fusion technology. It's insane. It just, I'm sorry. That seems so grand. People hold grudges their whole life. I just don't understand how what was the breaking point.
Valente on December 1st, renting a car in Boston. The FBI said he drove to Providence the same day, and cameras captured the car near the Brown campus over the next 2 weeks.
It was actually a video that provided us with a description of a vehicle.
Police released these images of a person who posted a tip about the car, saying police needed to look into a gray Nissan with Florida plates.
That person came forward and said he had information, that he was that person, and he had information that could help this case. And he blew this case right open.
The tipster told police he saw the suspect inside a bathroom at Brown the day of the shooting, describing the man's clothing as inappropriate and inadequate for the weather and calling the man's skin weathered. Police said the suspect fired more than 40 rounds inside the engineering building, and 2 days later, investigators said the suspect's car was spotted in Brookline, Massachusetts, where MIT professor Nuno Lalero was shot and killed. Only this time, the car had a different license plate.
At some point while he was in Massachusetts, he switched the plates on the Nissan Sentra to an unregistered plate out of Maine.
Investigators said the killer also used credit cards in someone else's name and technology to prevent his phone from being tracked.
He was sophisticated in hiding his tracks.
That's what I mean. Like, that's what's so crazy about it. And then he just still kills himself at the end of the day when he seemingly had gotten away with it, you know? That's what's so wild, because the only fucking tip that they got was from a homeless dude who was a Redditor, okay? That's the tip that they got. A guy who planned this out. I mean, it just, I'm sorry, man. It's just, even with that tip, they had no way of figuring out where he was. He could have gotten away. He swapped his license plates. He apparently had some way of shielding his phone from surveillance. I don't even know how. The tip led them to a car and license plates that matched in Boston and Providence. Yeah, no, I know. And before people say Faraday cage, a Faraday cage means you can't use your phone, chatters. Okay? If he had a Faraday bag, then he can't use his phone at all. The moment that his phone turns on, it pings. Okay? That's not like, and no, VPNs don't actually save you in that regard. You're wrong. He must have just like I don't even know what it would be, for the record. Like, I don't know how you could actually avoid that level of surveillance, unless he just had a totally separate phone that he was using that wasn't his like main phone, and then his main phone was in a Faraday cage or something. But that's not how they made it seem. They made it seem as though the phone had like some kind of anti-surveillance tech in it or something. Why are you assuming he needs a phone at all? I mean, it's 2025.
The FBI says the shooter and the MIT professor attended the same university in Portugal, and the murder was caught on camera.
Someone said airplane mode, bro. Yeah, no, totally. Airplane mode automatically. You're right. Yeah, just put your phone in airplane mode and it works. Are you fucking kidding me? Even if you turn your phone off, it's not a given that you have all of your data preserved. What are you talking about? When your phone is on you, okay, unless I guess you have like an older phone or something, but when you have your phone on you, it is consistently pinging to different towers, okay? That's how they can track the shit. It pings even when it's off. So yes, the only valid response here is a Faraday bag, okay, which completely shuts off the phone from any sort of like 5G waves or anything like that. Having said that, if you were to take your phone out of your Faraday bag, it would automatically ping to the nearest tower. Graphene OS allows anti-tracking modes. That is what the Faraday bag is for. It's not to be pinging the locations you are at while you're out engaging in the shootings, that you can simply remove it when you're at a separate location.
No doubt that he was the intended target.
Officials said there's no longer any danger to the public, and they hope the conclusion of the manhunt brings relief to two stunned New England communities. So the authorities here are confident that they've caught the killer. But, George, they know that he attended Brown University. They know he crossed paths with the MIT professor, but they say they do not know the motive for either attack. George.
Okay, Aaron Katursky, thanks.
We begin with a Fox News alert. The suspect in the Brown University killings has been found dead inside a storage facility in New Hampshire with a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
He killed himself inside the storage unit, and the firearms were found at his in the area of his thigh and in the area of his feet. We are 100% confident that this is our target.
Yeah, a guy who took every precaution on the fucking planet to destroy his trail, and could have gotten away with it, decides to kill himself in a fucking storage facility. I don't know. Smells weird, man.
And that this case is closed from a perspective of pursuing people involved.
Authorities say he is Portuguese. He's a Portuguese national, went to Brown University for a year in the PhD program in the early 2000s, never graduated. Before that, he went to school in Lisbon, and his classmate was an MIT professor who authorities say the suspect also murdered at his home in the Boston suburbs, just days after the Brown University shooting.
The suspect's car was towed away from this storage facility last night, and authorities say they found evidence related to two shootings inside the vehicle. So that's major.
Let's bring in Fox News contributor Paul Morrow, who ran counterterrorism operations for the NYPD. He is, of course, live in Providence, Rhode Island with Reaction. Paul, we learned a whole lot yesterday as all of this came to a head. What do you make of everything that we learned, your reactions to these developments?
So I think one of the things that we can sort of set upon here with some confidence is that the motive is going to be a lot less specific than a lot of the speculation had it. The commonality between the two crime events seems to be tenuous at best. We may never know, and you know, unfortunately in police work you don't always get a nice, neat resolution, but it looks to me like where we're going to end up is some general gripe against the school, somebody leading a slipping down life. And then there's this professor at MIT who seems to have been everything that this guy perhaps wanted to be and never quite became. They overlapped in school, as Brian said. They were of similar age. In the MIT case, the professor was married. He seemed to have everything going for him, whereas the perp in this instance seemed to have a lot less. So it looks to me like somebody who was just bitter, lashing out. And it tracks to what we talked about earlier in the week with the possibility that the classroom was just chosen at random. It was the first one he encountered when he went through that unguarded and unsecure outside door that was propped open or had no key card access during this study hall and other events.
Paul, did it surprise you that we learned two things? First of all, a homeless man is the one who gave the tip to the cops to close this case, but he was standing in the building.
Uh-oh, don't tell that to Brian. Don't tell that to Brian. Don't talk about homeless people around Brian. He's going to start talking about Brian killed me. More like Brian killed a homeless. Uh-oh. He's twitching. Look at him. Reshuffling in his seat. Excited at the prospect of what must be done. Excited, fantasizing about licking his lips, fantasizing about what he wants to do to the homeless guy who was the hero in this story. He's tweaking.
Which talks about the security protocols.
Look, he's licking his lips. He's like, ah!
Even though he's a hero in this event. Also, the suspect cased the university 2 weeks before he committed the ultimate crime.
Yeah, you know, there were echoes of Mangione in this thing because this guy was nowhere near as clever as he thought he was. You know, he graduated or he went to Brown, excuse me, he didn't graduate. But, you know, he thought of himself, I'm sure, as some engineering genius, and so he did this methodical thing where he cased the place and all this other stuff. Well, not only was that how they also picked him up on video when they went out to the residential area, but that's where he encountered somebody who ultimately was his downfall. So he goes in, he's casing around in the place, and, you know, Lawrence, it's an interesting thing. I'm actually not that surprised that it was a homeless person that stepped up. I'm going to tell you why. Homeless people know everything that's going on in the vicinity of where they've decided to squat, even if it's a cardboard box outside. Yeah, when I was on football.
Jesus Christ, dude. Dude, what incredible analysis. Yeah, you know, homeless people are fucking, they got their ears to the ground. You know how they are. They're always fucking getting into some shit when they're squatting. I fucking hate these guys. But hey, you know, even in this situation where this guy's a hero, make no mistake, he was heroic in a suspicious manner. He was heroic in a way that still invites scrutiny to his existence over here. You know how it is. You know how these fucking homeless are.
Patrol, if you buy a homeless guy a Snapple, he'll tell you everything that's going on in your patrol block in 10 minutes. He knows everything. So this guy, he did the thing that homeless people very often do.
It's just funny because like he thinks he's presenting this in a positive way, you know. Homeless people, not human, but basically like a surveillance module for us police.
Dude, they're actually proprietary about, you know, as the saying goes, be it ever so humble, right? And so that's why he says, you know, this guy doesn't belong here. Nobody knows that building like this guy that was living downstairs next to the boiler or something. Shows you how bad the security protocols were. But it does show you just a sort of human dynamic here that he felt something was off. He followed this guy. He scared the guy ran. But then he came forward, as we know now, and he's the one who allowed the police to button the whole thing up.
I'm still trying to find out, did he rent that storage facility ahead of time? Did he plan on keeping things there? Was it a murder-suicide? Likely by his, we never know, but was that the plan all along, go to a storage facility and kill yourself?
You know, I would say no, and I'm not basing that on anything more than you guys know, but just the psychology, you know, this is similar to a whole bunch of terrorism cases I had and things like that.
Oh my God. Dude, I'm sorry. One is a random happenstance school shooting, and then the other one is a targeted assassination. How the fuck did this guy do both? And also get away with it because he was like actually invested in covering his trail. Like, he was successful in covering his fucking trail. There is just something, there is a lot here that does not add up. I'm sorry. You know, I like to do critical analysis. I'm not Mr. Conspiracy Theory, okay? As a matter of fact, it gets quite boring around these parts whenever shit like this happens. But the official narrative here, the official narrative here just is it doesn't fucking add up. Like, here, I'll tell you like this. If he actually went to Brown University, to a specific building, to a specific room, and opened fire, and then, you know, went to another college, or if he went to Brown University and he shot a bunch of students, right, and he killed 2 of the students, and then went to another university and then shot a bunch of students and killed a bunch of students, that is at least in line with what he did at Brown University. They both tie together. Oh, this guy hates, Ivy League institutions. He has a deep resentment for Ivy League institutions because he felt like they never truly understood him, something along those lines, right? But one act of violence is very different than the other act of violence. If it was a targeted assassination in one school and then a targeted assassination down the street, then that still makes a little bit more sense. But the very fact that the level of sophistication involved in this, okay, the level of sophistication involved in the first shooting, even though the victims were seemingly random, okay, which doesn't make a lot of sense in and of itself, because a lot of these people that do pre-planning when they want to do like a school shooting, they oftentimes are not factoring in like getting away with it, right? It's a suicide by cop situation for many of these guys. They're like really fucked up in the head, and the common profile in mass shootings like this is like there is a level of pre-planning involved with like getting the guns or maybe looking at the blueprints of the school or something like that. But in most circumstances, like, you're not factoring in how you're going to get out. Even if you have a plan for it, you don't actually succeed. That's why it was kind of unique. The Brown University school shooting was unique because it's one of the, if not the only school shooting that I can think of where the shooter was able to do a mass shooting, kill 2 students, and get away. Okay? Like, you could say Tyler Robinson is a similar instance, but that was an assassination, allegedly, in the hands of Tyler Robinson. 1 person was shot. Like, it wasn't like a random spray and pray situation in the way that a lot of these school shootings normally work. Happened in Parkland, right? Yes. But they very quickly figured out, guys, he didn't just get away with it. Okay, Nicholas Cruz did not get away with it. They knew who he was instantly, and they were able to apprehend him. We did not have any fucking clue who this guy was. And we still wouldn't know who this guy is if it wasn't for a homeless guy who like was suspicious about him casing the area and talked about it on Reddit about like connecting his car to the scene of the crime. Do you not understand how different that is than like the Nicholas Cruz incident? Anyway, there is like, I'm willing, if there's more information that's revealed later down the line, perhaps the official narrative will make a little bit more sense. But the difference in the difference in matching this to previous school shootings, random acts of violence versus the pre-planning, and also the fact that he was able to get away with the crime and then go and conduct another one. That is different. That's different than most school shootings that take place, and that's also certainly different than like even assassinations, high-profile assassinations that take place.
He did all of this planning, and maybe it wasn't high-level planning. It wasn't nation-state level planning here, but he did do the recon. He walked the building. He did all of this stuff. He had the plates ready to go. He had the storage location rented ahead of time. Is how the whole thing went. And so I think he thought that he had outsmarted everybody and that he was going to be able to toy with Brown specifically, with MIT, and probably with society in America at large. I think he had elevated himself to that position. He probably was monitoring a lot of the reporting and getting a kick out of it. But I think he also realized they're closing in on me. And when it was clear to him he wasn't going to get away, he did what he did. What else is in there, I don't know. I haven't heard they've recovered a manifesto or anything like that. So as I said, we may never really get a good answer as to what his motivations here were.
Paul, how long does it?
No shit, but it's just a little weird. He was at the right place at the right time and on Reddit. The homeless guy was on Reddit. Yeah, homeless people are on Reddit. There's homeless people in my chat right now. What do you mean? Yes, homeless people have phones and have access to the internet.
Usually take a coroner to determine when somebody died. And then by that determination, we'll learn when he shot himself, if he even knew that police were hot on his heels.
An experienced coroner will know now. You know, not my area of expertise, but he's got a pretty good idea now. They can tell from the lividity in the body, where the body was lying, how much blood pooled, without being too graphic here. They can look at the eyes. There are these...
I think you're going down a bit of a dangerous path here and trying to make this a larger conspiracy than it is. This is America. People shoot others in the personal network all the time. No, I agree. That's the only thing that that basically that's the number one anti-conspiracy theory thing in the United States of America, is that these things happen. I think the reason why I'm like confused by this process is because if it was two separate shooters and two separate acts, it would make a little bit more sense, you know? Because yeah, this is just America shit does make a lot of sense. You're absolutely right. Okay. And also, the other side of the story is like, who stands to gain from the assassination of the MIT, the MIT nuclear scientist, right? Because if there is a conspiracy to assassinate that person, who stands to gain from it? Why would they have done it? Who actually did it? Was it this guy that did it and then they just like killed him? You know, there are obviously, it's the conspiracy cannot be more far-fetched than the official narrative in these situations. Like, is it executable? So that also is another point of evidence in the direction that the official narrative is probably correct. Okay. The one critique I have of your analysis so far is that he was very clearly disturbed enough to do two shootings, one very publicly, but you can't understand why he would then kill himself. Yeah, no, I don't think it makes sense. That aspect of it actually is the most suspicious part of it, in my opinion, because a person who took that kind of meticulous care to shelter their movement, to basically be able to do this kind of stuff in a way that is so sophisticated that he was able to evade law enforcement scrutiny with the exception of like one random encounter with a homeless person, that is a person who wants to survive. That's a person who wasn't actively trying to die in the process. Like, he literally got away. He got away and then he killed himself. Like, a person like that would have killed himself in the first shooting. Bro had nothing in his life. I can imagine someone planning to engage in a crazy plot and getting away with it, only then to realize they have no life to return to anyway. Yeah. The assassination of the MIT professor reminds me of the OpenAI assassination back in the beginning of the year. I mean, that one is more direct, though. That one is more direct. Or like the Boeing guys, right? The Boeing whistleblowers that have died under mysterious circumstances that are billed as suicide. Like, stuff like that happens. And we just kind of move on from it. And I suspect we will move on from this as well, inevitably. But I don't even know if this the MIT professor was actually responsible for like a major, like, I don't know what his what the extent of his research looked like. I'm just operating off of what the media had reported on previously, and that's the reason why I thought it was a suspicious death. Does that make sense? The files are out. Okay, we'll go through it.
Petiche, they call, they could see the broken blood vessels. They can tell a lot just from looking. And, you know, every cop has this story, the ME.
Also, paired up with the incompetence of not only this administration, but also paired up with the incompetence of our law enforcement at the federal level, things are getting extra weird. things are getting extra fucking weird. There are a lot of oddballs in academic STEM research. I can 100% believe this guy had imagined grudges exacerbated by deteriorating mental health. To commit the second shooting, wouldn't he have gotten away with the first? Okay, why didn't he just do the first shooting then? Why didn't he just kill the first guy and then be done with it? Why did he also go to Brown? Why did he go to Brown first? If you're trying to do a clean, if you're trying to do this clean and you have obviously put a lot of effort into getting away with it, why don't you do the first assassination first? He literally, he stopped backseating. I'm just saying it doesn't fucking make sense. Am I crazy? Anyway, we can't access the files yet, so we'll look at the media covering around the media coverage around the files as it trickles in.
Medical examiner, shows up at the scene and has to pronounce. And that very often is who makes the determination as to, in a lot of towns around the country, sometimes without even being a doctor, whether or not it is.
You're trying to rationalize the actions of an irrational man? No, you guys are falling into the trap of the insanity plea trap, as I like to call it, okay? Premeditated, okay, listen. Not only was this premeditated, but it was also very clearly mapped out, okay? There is a tremendous amount of rationality here. This wasn't an irrational person snapping, okay? Or having like an extended like psychotic episode or something. The fuck are you talking about? That's not, that is what, this was deliberate, targeted, meticulously executed. He wasn't just like, like it doesn't look, it doesn't feel the same as, or it doesn't have the same profile of like a guy who decides he's, a guy who's like decided he's going to do a mass shooting and commit to it and then go into a school and open fire. Inside one PDF, 15 pages out of 23 are redacted fully.
Suspicious or not, there's a lot of slippage there. But I can guarantee you that's not going to happen in this case. By now, they have a pretty good idea of when he did it. They know how he did it, obviously. And I think that one of the things they're going to be looking at here, aside from in the digital world, to see if he's in contact with other people, et cetera, but they're going to be looking at ballistics here. And here's why I go to that. I don't see how, if he used the same gun in both instances, they didn't connect the ballistics from MIT to Brown instantaneously. Now, the task force was competent. I don't care what anybody says. Once they got rolling after that false lead by Monday, they were moving good. So they would have done that.
This guy is right, by the way.
Either he used one gun in one place and one in the other, or he had other guns we don't know about. I would be curious to see how the ballistics come back. But at the end of the day, what I'm getting, and I don't mean to be too graphic, I'm getting a bitter loner loser. Slipping down life. We used to call it in the terrorism world loser to lion, because he wanted to make his mark in the world. He wanted to be somebody. ISIS knows how to play on that. I'm not suggesting he was in touch with ISIS, but that's the same phenomenon. And I think that he just came up here to lash out at something he felt failed him.
Yeah. So, Paul, do you, I was going back and forth with some friends, some buddies that's still on the job, and they had the theory that this guy was going to continue, but he felt the cops closing in. Have you heard anything from your sources about that?
No, I haven't heard anything that would be.
What does ISIS have to do with this? He's just saying that ISIS knows how to lean into people that are experiencing like specific gripes to activate like lone wolf style shooters. That's what he's saying. He even admits that ISIS seemingly had nothing to do with this. You keep talking about meticulous execution, but that's because the only thing you can empathize with is the goal of survival. This guy wanted to kill specific people, and it's clear no one at Brown was his actual target. Yeah, I know, which is that's the reason why I'm saying it's just like confusing. If he actually killed a specific person in Brown and then killed a specific person from MIT, then it makes more sense. Or if he actually did a school shooting style like random act of violence in Brown and then did a school shooting style random act of violence at another school down the line, then that also makes sense. But the fact that he did a random act of random school shooting style random act of violence and then did a very specific assassination, that's the reason why I'm confused by the details of this. I don't know why you think it's so crazy that someone could do both. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. Usually you wouldn't mix things up like that.
I don't think that is at all an outlandish supposition. in light of the fact that, as I said, he did all of this planning. He had at least 2 guns. He moved up here. Remember, he was in Miami. He moves up here to New England in the winter. It's kind of a reverse migration, right? And he does all of this stuff. He gets the apartment. He gets the storage location. He's got the 2 guns, which they're going to look at where and how he got them. He does the casing at a location for upwards of 2 weeks, according to what we're hearing. He went in and out of the building. All of this stuff tells me that he wanted to get away with it. This was not a suicide mission, let's be clear. And so as a result, you have to say to yourself, he thought he was going to sail off into the sunset, snicker about it, and then potentially, do it again. And so I hope that one of the things we get out of this is that the universities, many of which were very on board with defunding, we've seen university takeovers and campus protests where the police are not exactly popular. I hope they take it upon themselves to look at the protocols no matter where they are. We have active shooter training these days in high schools and grammar schools because of school shootings. The faculty and the students in these Ivy League schools, they're not immune to this no matter how much they think they are. And so if there's anything that comes out of this that's good, they got to do a hot wash here and say to themselves, are we in the same position? Because this was just a target waiting to happen.
Yeah, and lastly, I would flood Miami. If you want the facts, that's where he was. Do you think the investigators are there now, being that he's dead and this has been solved? How aggressive will they be in trying to reestablish motive, or to establish motive by maybe going back to find out where he lived before he came there?
I mean, yeah, they have to. They have to look into his background. Anyway, we're going to move on to the Epstein files data dump that just came out. The Department of Justice releases a trove of Epstein files. Let's take a look at what some of the
over these documents as
what some of the high-level notes are. I've heard that there's a lot of redacted stuff in there.
I don't think we're prepared yet to show them to our audiences. We're working on that, but please do tell us what you've learned.
I don't even know if I can get to that website.
About describing what's
you have
in
to
the
click on I am not a robot. Your estimated wait time is less than a minute.
Sensitivities, so many sensitivities around this issue. But what I can say here is, in the data sets that are being put out by the Justice Department, there are many photos, and they are stripped of context. They are just images. Many of them do show Jeffrey Epstein, of course. They would be from the files around him. There are also images of Ghislaine Maxwell.
What the fuck?
But this is the sort of thing that people will be clicking on, seeing, that you'll see around as people go photo by photo. I mean, some of these, there's clearly hundreds of them. They're posted in dozens of pages of data on the Justice Department website, and they don't say where they're from, why they were taken, where the location of the photos are. So a lot of those context clues, that's the sort of reporting and questions that we'll need to follow up on in understanding
looking at the website.
What the meaning of these photos might be.
But after a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City on the 10th of August 2019. This conclusion is consistent with previous findings, including the 2019
Stefanik leaving Congress and dropping out of the Hochul race? Dude, we'll get to that, okay? Are you fucking kidding me? You think that's the biggest story right now? Chatter coming in here being like, at least Stefanik is dropping out. Okay, sick. Like, is she connected to Jeffrey Epstein? If not, forget about it, okay? I don't give a shit. The fuck? We'll talk about it later. Yeah, she was going to get destroyed in the gubernatorial race regardless. Okay? Oh my God, you just sent me a Ghislaine cleavage photo. That is crazy. That is crazy with the feet and everything. I've seen a photo similar to this on the Epstein flight before.
Some of the content we're seeing from these documents, and I'm looking at video footage now of the common area just outside Jeffrey Epstein's cell. We've seen that before.
Yes.
And indeed, that video, there's a break in the video, which has given rise to suspicion that Epstein may not have committed suicide. So conspiracy theory around that, or doubts about the suicide theory, certainly. This video I'm looking at, it shows a common area just outside Jeffrey Epstein's cell. We've seen that before. That has been made public, but that relates to Jeffrey Epstein. It relates to investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. Therefore, it's being released as part of these documents today. And that's what these documents relate to.
I found one that is an affidavit with Epstein and a 14-year-old. Yikes.
And pretty much every interaction that the law enforcement, the FBI and others had with Epstein and in terms of their investigations into his activities. That's why there are so many names in the frame, so many images of Epstein associates in his company, and so many connections made to a range of people. As I mentioned, not all by any stretch guilty of criminality. Indeed, they are due the presumption of innocence until proved otherwise. But it gives you a sense of the connections that Jeffrey Epstein had across high society. Many of the names who have featured in these files are from the rich and famous. It's not just Donald Trump. It wasn't just the former Prince Andrew.
Files, man.
Yesterday we saw pictures
The U.S. Department of Justice begun to release all files related to the case
Allen,
against convicted sex offender trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
The comedian, U.S. TV personalities, and so on. We're seeing from this publication today, Matt, many pictures.
Bill Clinton with a redacted person in the pool. Oh my God.
You'll remember that Jeffrey Epstein was an owner of many properties, not just the island in the.
Oh my fucking Lord. That is. Are you going to cover the Epstein files? Okay, take a day off. No memes, no jokes. Only fucking productive statements. Okay? Oh, fuck, dude. Maybe it's Hillary. Abso-fucking-lutely not. It's not Hillary. Are you kidding me? If it was Hillary Clinton, her face would not be redacted. It's more likely that it's Donald Trump. Let's be real. Can you explain what you are looking at on my screen? My eyes are bad. I'm watching on phone. We are currently looking at a photo from the Epstein files with Bill Clinton, former president of the United States of America, Bill Clinton, in what seems to be a jacuzzi in a bathing suit with his hands behind his head, leaning on the corner with a censored photo of someone who is not affiliated or potentially a victim of Jeffrey Epstein's. A lot of these photos that have censors over the people that are most commonly women that are involved with some of the high-profile people are censored for the sake of protecting the unaffiliated people or the likely victims and preserving their identities. There are, oh my God, there are so many. Oh God, there's going to be so many fucking photos with Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein. This is the other side of this story. Okay. The other side of the story is as many photos exist as Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, there are a fuck ton of photos with Jeffrey Epstein and Bill Clinton. Remember, the reason why a lot of the right initially leaned into the Jeffrey Epstein stuff was because they were like, oh yeah, this is a Clinton conspiracy, which is true. There is truth that Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein were absolutely heavily connected to one another. However, oh shit, Mick Jagger. However, Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were also connected to one another as well. Think about Epstein when Clinton was impeached, Lamau. Was there a time when Bill Clinton and Trump were friends? Yes. Yes. Of course, there are photos of them together in public. This shit is so bad it deserves an apolitical revolution. Like, even if we're just going to preserve liberal capitalism, this requires a replacement of our system. I mean, yeah, this is a child. Well, you don't, I mean, oh God, this is so fucking strange. Don't you think this is from inside the temple? Is this a photo from inside the temple? Seems good. Ain't no fucking way these are the files that they released. It's just 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Is it just not loading or is it just redacted? Is it just not loading? I don't understand. What am I Ain't no way they were like, here are the Epstein files, 55 pages of redaction, full-blown redaction. Wow. Thank you. What an incredible fucking release here. More photos. Yours isn't loading for some reason. I can see no, this is a different, they're Polaroids. Give them a minute. Look at this, mate. F to 0003169.pdf. Dude, just link it to me if you want me to see it. There are, this is the photo sets, right? That they recovered. Hundreds of pages are 100% redacted. Obviously, some of the redactions are made because they are, they have victims, the faces of victims, and that's the reason why they don't show that stuff, right? But then there's also going to be redactions because, there are probably high-profile people that they don't want to fucking involve in this. And maybe even Donald Trump. Like, there's information, not just photos, but like information that they're redacting. And I think not all of these. Wait, what? Photo from Epstein's home in New York City has Bill, MBS, and Trump? Oh, yeah, we've seen that. I mean, I've seen these photos before, but this is a clearer picture. Creepy photos from, what the fuck? Epstein's bedroom in New York City? Jesus Christ, this guy had so many strange artifacts in his fucking house. Photos of him and Trump. Photos with Bubba. Photos with MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The Pope. There's a short plane video. Who's the guy on the right? Oh my God, that's Steve Pinker. Wait, is this AI or is this real? That's Steven Pinker. He's a famous Harvard professor. I mean, there is a photo of them together for the record. Yeah, Pinker is a known associate of Jeffrey Epstein for the record. It's not even like a new thing. But I don't think we've ever seen a video from the video of them together. CSAM not scanned. Wait, what? Okay, this means that there are different levels of redaction. So the black bars that we see are just like to hide people's identities and stuff. But then there's one extra level of redaction, which is when it's directly child sexual abuse material, where they don't even upload it, they don't even scan it, and they just have the data, like they just have the hard evidence, and they don't even copy it, which makes sense. Like that means they have footage, but it's just they will not copy it for understandable reasons. I don't know if live photos on iOS were a thing before Epstein died. We'll have to check, but the short videos may be those. Live photos consist of one photo and one short video before or after the shot. They have hash values, which they give to law enforcement. Photos provided by interview of redacted. This is what, like evidence filing, right? This is evidence filing. Photos provided by redacted. Might be LNU, may have moved to Florida. LNU used to be roommate, moved back to Brazil, still in New York. Younger than friends of Bleep Friends, big Brazilian group, Dominican darker skin, looks Amazonian, brought towards end, desperate time, maybe 1 to 2 years older, not sure, desperate time, running out of girls. Friends with Bleep's boyfriend's friends, didn't want Spanish or dark girl, go in, wait in room, wait in, roommate doesn't know if took her, says, I don't know what happened. Jeffrey Epstein, what doing? Why bringing me dark girl? Bringing young girl? Yeah, but not dark. Told her he just wasn't into her. Doesn't remember if he paid Bleep because he wasn't happy. Jeffrey Epstein paid her. Bathroom. One torso pink, vaginas and boobs near bathtub. He got in shower and told her can't just bring girls he doesn't like. Told her keep looking for girls. At one point, redacted witnessed them asking for ID to girl. Wanted make sure under 18 because he wasn't believing them, because redacted messed up by bringing more older girls. Holy fuck. So he was mad that the girls were potentially over the age of 18, saying he wanted to make sure that the girls were under the age of 18. What the fuck is going on here? Roommate, when still living with mom, they rented out rooms, just came from Brazil, was model older than. What is happening? It's not a doors open situation. Why is the name of the person gathering underage girls redacted? I don't know. I actually don't understand that. I don't know why they're redacting the like, I don't know if it's because it's like, I don't know if it's because the information, 119-page grand jury document entirely redacted according to MS Now. The reason why might be because they got immunity from the previous deal. Because, like, remember, the first time Jeffrey Epstein was caught sex trafficking minors across state lines, there was a second deal that was conducted. Not only did he get a fucking sweetheart plea deal, unlike anything anyone has ever gotten, and the person who offered him that was Alexander Acosta, who then became Donald Trump's labor secretary, who actually resigned as Donald Trump's labor secretary because the second investigation into Jeffrey Epstein was being conducted. And people were like, dude, what the fuck? You're responsible for giving Jeffrey Epstein this incredible sweetheart plea deal. And part of that process was that they actually were able to, they actually gave full immunity to every other known affiliate. This could be the reason, or it could be that some of the co-conspirators were also underage as well, or some of the co-conspirators were victims as well, because it is known that Jeffrey Epstein would routinely use some of his own victims to then go out and get new victims as well. So that's part of the reason why it could be redacted. But I don't think these people are victims. I think that this is a co-conspirator that got some kind of immunity, and that's the reason why their identity might be redacted here. But this is so crazy that the evidence notes here very clearly show a profile, Jeffrey Epstein straight up demanding underage girls and even applying scrutiny to the person that was helping him traffic underage girls, saying, I need to see some identification because last time you fucked up and you gave me overage girls. And not only was it underage girls, but he wanted underage white girls. Racist pedophilia. Thomas Massey says if 20 to 25 men are not named as sex offenders today in the release, this is a cover-up. We're working with victims to ensure the offenders don't omit evidence under the pretense of redacts due to this. Oh, shit. Holy shit, dude. No, look at the top left of that dog. It says initials live with mom at 13, moved out at 14, and the redaction is the same size of the redacted initials of the person gathering the girls. This totally looks like another victim forced to bring him more girls. Yeah, that could be the case. But that doesn't mean bleep living with mom at 13, moved out at 14. You do understand that could be one of the victims that they're bleeping out. Yeah, see, in this page, this redaction is a victim, okay? This might not be, or this could be, I don't know. There are also so many victims that this kind of redaction is going to make it like I suspect that what they're doing in the situation is basically because there are so many victims and so much evidence for pedophilia and numerous other illicit dealings that they went through all the documents and redacted certain people's names, clients, high-profile people that were directly involved in the illegal acts, or at least were named by some of the victims and witnesses as being involved in this, and they're using the larger, they're using the valid redactions to also hide people who are affiliates as well. I can't have Brace on. I already asked him, and Brace said he's filming an episode and then immediately leaving, so he's not going to be around, unfortunately, today. This is fucking insane, man. Do you think the victims even want these redactions? I mean, I think the victims want their identities preserved, yes, but they don't want the affiliates to be able to shelter their names, and that's what Thomas Massey is presenting as well. There's a crazy painting of Bubba. No, this is a famous one. We've seen this before. Yeah, it's Bill Clinton in a blue dress. Yeah. This was known from before. It's just another angle of the same painting that we've seen before. Yeah, this is a famous one. It gets worse. What? No. Hold on. Living the Good Life, Part 5, Massage for Everybody. And it's a baby massage training. Baby massage moves. One thing about babies, they're really, really small. You can tell how small when you try to massage them and one of your hands covers their entire back. Besides, there was a manual for massaging babies. I mean, that's also the least surprising. IDF sweatshirt. This one has a lot of Clinton. Yeah, I think it was in the files. It was a massaging for dummies book or something that they found in the files. Whole ass scrapbook with Epstein and redacted victims. Somebody made some kind of zine comic with the photos of Jeffrey Epstein and all kind of redacted girls. Yo, these motherfuckers were scrapbooking, brother. Oh my God. That's the other fucking boomer angle, is that they loved scrapbooking. This is a thing that's part of the reason why they were like constantly fucking what do you call it? Constantly taking photos or whatnot. But this is an entire scrapbook that they made. Once upon a time, there was a clueless little girl. How do I look? Then, what is he doing? He wouldn't. Elastic. Can I even show this? This is like this is a pedophile mood board. Those eyes are blue. And the little teeth. I met you. How do I look? I played the cards I was dealt. First Christmas. Oh my goodness. I will be the first. Is my cover blown? What could this be? I learned and grew. I beautified, took care of you. Before and after. Brazil, Dubai, Prague, Czech milk. We traveled. Berlin, St. Bart's. You're the best. Oh, really? You're so sweet to me. I like Prague. I know. I am working on number 3. Paris. We fought. Then hugged. We laughed. One ham. Bleep, please, no mustard. I will get you. Now you drive. 2007, September 17th. And then it's just it's a photo of him and one of the victims. This looks fake as fuck. Brother, this is literally from the government files. What are you talking about? This looks fake as fuck. Really? The zine was a birthday card. Yeah. This looks like Prince Andrew's. Item was not scanned. Let's look at this one. Description photo frame. Oh, it is. It is Prince Andrew with a bunch of victims. This I think that's the one of the pilots, right? Here's Ghislaine Maxwell in Russia. This is a redacted photo. Epstein on a horse with a victim. I don't even know what the fuck's going on here with some fancy people. This is oh my God, Jeffrey Epstein with Michael Jackson. Wait, what is this special day in England? Who is this person? I wonder. Michael Jackson, redacted. I don't know who this guy is. Redacted, not redacted. On a hammock. Tucker Carlson? No, he's not Tucker Carlson. Winnie the Pooh. Jeffrey Epstein, another one of these guys. I don't know, redacted. And then that's it. Bro, the full page redactions on photos are very suspicious. The full page redactions on photos imply that, like, I don't think that there are full page redactions on these photos because, like, there's victims all over these photos. I feel like that is the type of redaction that they do when they feel like there is no, when they feel like there's like a too high profile of a person, or maybe it's like a location or something. Yeah, identifiable location, something like that. MJ with Clinton on Lolita. Yeah. Yep, Michael Jackson with fucking Bill Clinton on the Lolita Express. Full page redaction might be a cover up. They have a different CSAM not scam page for the CSAM, right? Yes. If it's a full page redaction, see, look, this is what it looks like in the files that are uploaded. if it's actually CSAM, okay? There's a different way of handling child sexual abuse material where they understandably don't scan child sexual abuse material. If they redact a face, that's most likely a non-affiliated, oftentimes a victim that is not affiliated or not implicated in any crime, okay? If it's a full page redaction, though, like if it's fully black, then that's a little bit suspicious. Because if it's a full-blown full page redaction, I feel like there is a different reason as to why they're engaging in that, and I don't know what it is, but it definitely is very suspicious, very weird. I will, however, say, even with all the redactions so far, there is a shit ton of data here. There is a shit ton of new evidence here, new connections here, things that we previously did not know about that many of these people did know about. Okay? Like a lot of people in positions of power did know about this shit. And remember, including Donald Trump, for example, Donald Trump's DOJ, all of the people that told us that there was nothing there, nothing that you didn't know about previously. And that is strange. Okay? What is this? Go to 1201. Go to 1201. Wait, what is this? This is not 12 hours long. What are you talking about? 1201:30. No one went into his cell after 10:30 p.m. This is not his cell, chatter. For the record. Many of the photo folders are named Clinton Place. Some others are redacted place, so they are likely redacting the names of people. Yeah. There is someone conspicuously absent from all these photos so far. Yeah. Where the fuck is Donald Trump? 10:25. 10:28. 10:30 p.m. 10:29. I feel like fully redacted photos are the ones that Trump or the location of Mar-a-Lago or White House or some Israeli official. Oh, 12:31. Go to 12:01 on the clock. 12:01, not 31. Why are you guys doing this? Okay, here. 12. No one's at 31. Maybe I saw 31. I was wrong. I have to pee so fucking bad, dude. Wait, hold on. You know what? I'm gonna go to CNN for now, and then I'm gonna pee, and I'll be back, and then we'll look at the 12.
To go through the documents they've had for years from the Epstein files and the FBI investigation. There's also incoming to the Justice Department from other parts of the government that they're going to be going through and that we may not even be seeing for several days. Casey?
All right, Caitlin, thank you very much for that update. Joining us now to discuss further, victims' rights attorney Gloria Allred. She's represented several Epstein abuse survivors. And Gloria, I know that you're digesting what we're learning from the Justice Department right along with everyone else, but I'm hoping you can give us a sense of what a moment like this means to the women who were victimized by Jeffrey Epstein and others in Epstein's orbit.
Well, I'm glad that you asked, Casey, because this didn't just happen. It is happening because of the courage of many survivors speaking out and pushing elected officials to this point. Elected officials in Congress and also the president. And that is a tribute to them, and they deserve that commendation because it took a lot for many of them to speak out and let people know what had happened to them. And they did it in order to achieve the release of the DOJ's Epstein files, which they only got partial release of today. Of course, the Deputy Attorney General, Mr. Blanche, has also indicated that part of his reasoning for not giving everything that the law requires today is that he wants to be sure that the victims' identities are protected and also their names. And in addition, any...
Bro, I'm sorry, but Gloria Allred is not exactly a credible person. Okay, so here, let's get back to this. At the 12:01, you said there's like someone that walks in. Except the Jeffrey Epstein, cell is actually on the opposite side of this. So this camera angle does not even show Jeffrey Epstein's cell, just so you guys know. So when people say, all right, 12:01, what happened? 12:06, not 12:01. You missed it. It happens at 12:01:30. On the top left corner, you missed it. Oh, you're talking about near the stairs at 12:01. Oh, this. Wait, what the fuck? This isn't even his room. Yeah. Yeah, this is not his cell, chatters. I know, I don't think you guys understand. That's not his cell. There's no camera footage showing directly outside of his cell. That was a big problem because the cameras suspiciously were busted. But even in this situation, even in this footage, there's like cut parts as well, which people thought was also strange. This is edited footage. But what if that was his cell? Hypothetically, that'd be suspicious. Okay. We're getting stupid. We're getting stupid right now. All right. Anyway, one of the only things that someone could find, I think, is like so far. What is this? It with Donald Trump's? Is that Donald Trump's signature? Oh yeah, that is Donald Trump's signature on a check, and that's it. Very few new information that's come out of this that that I clipped it. Rick Astley, dude, you're funny, dude. Take a week off, okay? Take a week off. Bye bye. What? Oh, come on, dude. That's a really good bit, though, chatter. Keep up the good work. What is this? CCP? Okay, calm down. Who are these? I don't know. I don't know who some of these people are. I mean, dude, he was homies with every wealthy person. Oh, yeah. And then Donald Trump is in the Epstein files for some of these photos that Jeffrey Epstein kept of him. In his drawer, in his desk drawer. They're dead. Walter Cronkite, Richard Branson. We've seen Richard Branson with him before. This is a new photo of him and Richard Branson, for the record. There's photos of him there's photos of a gun range, but that's not that unique. The picture in the drawer is a new unredacted photo of Donald Trump, but this one is famous. The other one with like Ghislaine and Melania Trump, that one is, all these photos and evidence, and Epstein is never working his big finance job. Yeah, I'm just surprised. I thought he was like such a prolific trader, and yet it doesn't feel like he has any time to trade because he's seemingly taking photos with underage and women over the age of 18 that he allegedly sex trafficked. Well, not even allegedly, confirmed to have sex trafficked. So it's very strange to me how he was making all of his, how he found any time through his incredibly busy social schedule, taking photos with virtually every famous person on the planet, including the financial elite, including heads of government, foreign emissaries and things like that. Very busy social calendar for this guy. Another one of Clinton. I mean, the craziest one of Clinton is in the fucking hot tub, dude. Will we ever truly know how he connected with women for sex and who he connected with women for sex and who he connected for children for pedophilia? No, I don't think so. I think at best, the best you're going to get is maybe some of the alive victims who are who know who some of the clients were. But even then, it's what the fuck? Former President Bill Clinton swims with unknown woman and Ghislaine Maxwell, convicted sex offender and close associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Jesus Christ. This stuff is new. This stuff is definitely new. Yeah, I saw this with Prince Andrew. Ivana and Ivanka mentioned, was on the contact list. Yeah, I mean, this is stuff from his black book. We already know. Every famous person is on here, dude. Every famous person is on here. There's like the fucking Blizzard guy who stole titty milk is on the fucking Epstein black book, famously. Here's Bill Clinton again on Lolita Express. Dude, this motherfucker, oh my God. I feel like nothing will happen with this release because they would redact Trump, but only if there's a leak with evidence involving Trump will we actually see repercussions. Grums is on the blacklist? No, it's not Grums. Is Hillary going to talk about how social media is warping the minds of the youth instead of addressing why her husband is with every junior high schooler in Florida? Yeah, no, that's before TikTok, so that's different. Tons of call logs, names redacted, but shows Poland a lot. This is a subpoena from T-Mobile for his T-Mobile phone number and like where he was calling. A lot of incoming calls here. A lot of phone numbers that were redacted. Mostly call destination, Miami, Florida, incoming. There's one North Dakota in here. North Dakota, or no, not North Dakota. North Dade, Florida. Never mind. North Dade, Florida mentioned. Why do we never see photos of people at the island? There are plenty of photos of people at the island. All I'm going to say is that boomers are so fucking dense. They really complain about Gen Z documenting everything online. Meanwhile, these motherfuckers are just recording themselves committing crime thinking no one's going to know. I mean, true. So I guess it's the same. And there is no generational divide there. Everyone is constantly recording themselves doing crimes all the time, whether it's on Snapchat or whether it's in a scrapbook that you made for your favorite pedophile, your favorite close personal pedophile besties. Doesn't change that dynamic all that much, does it? Where it's just still a thing that fucking boomers are doing, you know? Like these guys would be streaming this shit on Kick. That is like the modern meta, you know?
Epstein files. We are combing through all of these details, and we are going to try to bring it to you as coherently as possible as it
Richard
comes
Branson,
in the meantime,
billionaire.
our panel is here, and of course, Elliot Williams. One of the things that people are really interested in is the list, or a list, any list of names of powerful men
Hey, Hassan, you need to see
who
this.
were involved here. Right? This is a list that the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, had said when the Trump administration came into office the second time. She said, it's sitting on my desk. Right? Then, of course, we have not seen it. Susie Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff, said this week that
yes, dude, Timothy Chalamet's SD kid
on this matter entirely.
Okay.
But I want to play what Congressman
I would
Thomas
say that's
Massie,
like that's not even the 10th most important conspiracy theory right now that we're talking about today. Come on now.
what he said about what might be in them. Let's watch.
I wanted to talk about some of the things to look for and what we may be anticipating. The victims' lawyers have been in contact with me.
Oh, there's a crazy
and collectively,
story about
they
this.
know there are at least 20 names of men who are
Hold on.
accused of sex crimes in the possession of the FBI. So if we get a large production on December 19th, and it does not contain a single name of any male who's accused of a sex crime or sex trafficking or rape or any of these things, then we know they haven't produced all the documents. It's that simple.
That was a huge line, dude.
What's
Thomas Massie straight up said if they're using the victims' names to provide shelter for 20 to 25 different men, or if 20 to 25 different men after today are not known publicly as being involved in like illicit sexual acts, that means that they used the redaction. They overextended the redactions and basically extended it to some of the criminals as well. Okay. And that is the suspicion that they engaged in. The suspicion that they did was there's some of the redactions are obviously victims. Many of them are obviously victims, but they obviously clearly fucking hid.
Number two, a lot of
they clearly hid the other the other people that were engaged in illicit acts as well, making it seem like they're also redacting victims'
we
names.
find out about those three buckets, and I think that if people go in expecting that and not some smoking gun list, I think the world will be far more satisfied with whatever the Justice Department provides.
Yeah, although, Ellie Honig, you've been hanging with us throughout the hour, which I very much appreciate. I mean, the reality is everybody's looking for a list. You've seen so much of this kind of material in your career as a prosecutor. Do you think there's a list?
No, I mean, all the reporting is there's not in one discrete place, like a list, number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. To the bigger point about other people who may be involved here, let's remember the exceptions. This law does allow the Justice Department to hold back any information that might relate to an ongoing investigation or that might undermine our national security or foreign diplomacy. There's a lot of discretion, a lot of wiggle room there for Pam Bondi to hold things back in her discretion. That's point one. Point two, to Representative Massey's point earlier, that if we don't see sort of high-profile names, then we'll know they have not turned over everything. Guess what? We know they have not turned over everything because Todd Blanche has said so. He said, I know we were supposed to under the law. This is just some of them, and there's a lot more still to come.
Ellie, on that point, I mean, why do you think Todd Blanche is doing this? I mean, the fact that it represents a delay from what the law says.
I don't know. I couldn't begin to make excuses for him. They gave the DOJ 30 days to pull this together. Yes, it was a gargantuan task. We've had reporting here at CNN about how there was a mad scramble behind the scenes at DOJ. But if the end result of that is, sorry, Congress, sorry, Mr. President, who signed the law, we just couldn't get there in time, that's just unacceptable. That's just outrageous. So, look, I suppose this will give rise to theories that maybe they're trying to drag this out. If the documents are going to slowly leak out over the next 2 weeks, we all know what's happening the next it's Christmas, it's New Year's, people are going to be halfway paying attention. But it's a huge error. It's a flub by DOJ to not have these already. Now, maybe worse than that even. They did not comply with the plain language of a law passed by Congress, signed by the president.
And in the absence of a penalty for failing to comply with that law, Ellie, I mean, what does that part of this mean?
Yeah, there's not a heck of a lot that can be done. You've had earlier members of Congress suggesting they may sue, maybe, but that'll take time, and perhaps in that time this will get worked out. As you noted earlier in one of your interviews, Casey, there's not a mechanism built into this law that says if DOJ fails to comply, the punishment will be A, B, or C. It just sort of leaves it out there unaddressed. So ultimately, it's going to have to come down to political pressure and political will from Congress.
It has been a remarkable thing to see, actually, the way that Republicans in this particular case have actually exerted political will over the wishes and will of the president of the United States to get us this far. But I think it's good you underscore that today. Ellie Honig, thank you. Thanks very much to my panel as well. Really appreciate it. Thanks to you all at home.
Yeah, this is like this is a big data dump on Clinton. And nothing even like technically super illicit about Clinton so far. But that's it. Like the most high profile, like new shit that we found out is just Bill Clinton. And that to me is somewhat suspicious. And I don't even mean that like there was going to be more Trump stuff, even though Trump basically made it seem like there was more Trump stuff in there. And that's the reason why he was trying to delay the release or just refuse to release it altogether. But there are obviously very clearly other people that are either close to Trump or just like bipartisan elites, you know, that the administration is protecting, the DOJ is currently protecting.
Here is Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche this morning saying that all of the files are not going to be released today.
I expect that we're going to release more documents over the next couple of weeks. So today, several 100,000, and then over the next couple of weeks, I expect several 100,000 more. There's a lot of eyes looking at these, and we want to make sure that when we do produce the materials we're producing, that we're protecting every single victim.
Okay, let's check in with the actual law that has required this release of the documents. It's called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It passed 30 days ago with the support of every member of Congress except for one, Republican Congressman Clay Higgins. The law requires of the Justice Department and FBI, quote, not later than 30 days after the date of the enactment of this act, the Attorney General shall, subject to subsection B, make publicly available in a searchable and downloadable format all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials, unquote, that pertain to Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and other people or entities named in connection to them and the sex trafficking ring that they are alleged to have run. Now, you will notice in that law, it didn't say today was the deadline to release some of the records.
Yeah, it's supposed to be all
of the records, and it said with a searchable form. And if you go onto the website right now and just even put the word Epstein in to search the Epstein documents, that doesn't come up because it's not searchable yet. Let's discuss this all with CNN's Evan Perez. and MJ Lee. MJ, what are we learning about the content of the files that have been released so far?
Yeah, Jake, we knew that today was going to be a really big document dump coming from the DOJ. But even having known that, when you take even a few minutes to go through these documents, it really is a pretty sickening experience. So much context is
There's
missing.
just so much fucking
really,
CSAM and so much
like
open demands for procuring children to engage with, to do statutory rape with. It's psychotic. And also a fuck ton of high-profile people directly associated with them. Epstein kept an insane amount of information, even as a big cache of 3.5 floppies in his penthouse. Yep.
Such a reminder of how many people had accused him of abuse. And
dude, the fact that these people still, the fact that the Ezra Klein narrative was like, oh, he was a prolific pedophile, but also was very, kept very famous company, but those two things were separate from one another is so insane to me. It just doesn't, I don't know how you could have ever arrived at such a conclusion. Okay. It's just this dude was doing so much pedophilia that it was very clearly taking up a big chunk of his life, It's virtually impossible for there to be no crossover in any way, shape, or form. My other main takeaway is that Epstein Maxwell were taking photos like an eager freshman who just started college. They were photographing everything and everyone they met. Yeah, I think there was a reason for that. Epstein kept an insane amount of information, even as a big cache of 3.5 floppies in his penthouse. There was also obviously a lot of tapes, specifically tapes with names of people that were redacted. And some of the tapes that were mysteriously lost in the wind. So this is not even the tip of the iceberg, really. Okay. So remember, there's also, there are so many different points of confusion here. This one specifically is about, I think, someone blowing the whistle on the plea bargain. I can't really read it, though. It's difficult to read. Floppies are floppy disks, before CDs, before CD-ROMs, there were floppy disks. Who's this? Okay, doors open. Yeah, floppy disks are very, very tiny, a child. That's a child's foot, yes, for sure. What the fuck? I think that's a baby that's being held by I assume an adult with a shirtless Jeffrey Epstein, who apparently had a tribal bicep tattoo. Rokana says Pam Bondi will be prosecuted if she doesn't release the full Epstein files by today's deadline. Let me be very clear. We need a full release.
9 p.m. on Friday, the Epstein files will finally be released because of my Epstein Transparency Act. We will see thousands of documents that we should have seen decades ago. 3 federal judges have ordered the release.
One of the craziest aspects of this, by the way, is the fact that these people were sheltered. And they were able to just operate in polite society and potentially in positions of prominence long after law enforcement authorities, investigators knew the depths of their illicit activity. So that's what's so crazy about it too. It's like justice delayed is justice denied. This is an endless delaying of justice in this situation. And the Department of Justice is telling Congress that the release is incomplete. The DOJ acknowledges to Congress that Epstein files release is incomplete, expects additional disclosures by end of year. Yeah, they are. I think there were far too many documents. I'm not even kidding. I think there were far too many documents where they had to basically take an L on drip feeding shit because they refuse. They refuse to release it without redacting everything. And I suspect that's the reason why they're saying sorry, we can't release it yet. Even though there was so much fucking time, even though there was a 30-day period, and I guess the 30-day period was not enough. Is your neck okay? No, it's not. Is it a less than 110% chance that they just redact all mentions of Trump? And if no is more than 0% chance normies think he's sus that is not mentioned at all? I think for normies, they will say, what is this? During one of DOE's encounters with Epstein, he took her to Mar-a-Lago where he introduced her to his owner, Donald J. Trump. Introducing the 14-year-old Doe to Donald J. Trump, Epstein elbowed Trump, playfully asking him, referring to Doe, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled, and Doe felt uncomfortable, but at the time was too young to understand why. This is from one of the court documents, I assume. They just released a bunch of Epstein files, and I scrolled through flight log documents for 5 minutes and found Donald Trump 5 different times. Yeah, Donald Trump was on the flight logs. We know that. Oh, this letter is admitting basically why Epstein was protected, potentially. What is this? Let's see. Dear Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, I hate that you got into this mess with the girls over the years. These girls knew what they were doing. You didn't put a, what is this, to their hand, but you have to water it. You didn't put a gun to their hand, but you have to water it to all rich people are targets in this world. People are going to come at you to get $1. Women are really stinking, I assume, really sticking it to the men on every level. It seems a lot is justified in some cases. In your case, you really need to watch yourself. You are a target, and you never should got yourself caught up in this bullshit in the first place. You knew these girls would come at you in the long run and mess up your reputation. You should have knew that and go after your pockets. L. Reader, Haas dyslexia. Chatter, not only is this person dyslexic, but this cursive is ass. I mean, this is a random person who sent a letter to a random misogyny tourist, I think, that sent a letter to Jeffrey Epstein from prison. Okay, I don't think this is like this has anything to do with any Hasanabi can't read. Yeah, this is remember when I told you guys like there's a concept such as misogyny tourists, like people who just look to instances of men doing sexual impropriety or illicit acts and whatever, and then they just like they lend unlimited support to those men for some fucking weird reason. This is one of those men, I think. Like people who became Tory Lanez fans after Tory Lanez's their criminal charges against them. There are redacted pictures of Ivanka Trump in the files. Does this imply she was a victim? So there is an interesting thing with Ivanka Trump. There is suspicion, or not Ivanka Trump, sorry, with Melania. There is suspicion that Melania was modeling with, like, there's suspicion that like Melania met Donald Trump through Jeffrey Epstein by way of a Jeffrey Epstein affiliate. He spoke to the doctor about your symptoms. It is Bratislavian various. It can be cured, but you have to move. It can cost empathy of the muscle, which can shorten your sex life. What? I think they meant impotency, or no, atrophy, but they wrote empathy. Atrophy, you suck at autocomplete? Bitch, what are you talking about? I'm trying to read the fucking words that they wrote. Are you kidding me? This is IMPOTHY. Y'all are fucking making it my fault that none of these super wealthy dumb fucks could actually write anything correctly because they were all dyslexic as shit. How the fuck is this my fault? God damn. And it is not a one guy situation at all. Suck my dick. There was a hella guys in the chat. It was a 1,000 guy situation.
As I'm speaking, dozens of lawyers on the national security team at the Department of Justice are preparing the documents for release. Let me be very clear. We need a full release. Anyone who tampers with these documents or conceals documents or engages in excessive redaction will be prosecuted because of obstruction of justice. We will prosecute individuals regardless of whether they're the Attorney General or a career or political appointee. We need full transparency and justice for the survivors. Tomorrow, finally, rich and powerful men who raped underage girls or who covered up for this abuse will be held accountable.
Nope. That's not, that's what we thought could potentially happen, but seemingly no. But in this situation, it's like, even if you literally have like congresspersons,
Clinton
it's on CNN
ties
now.
With Epstein before his arrest. On
Even if you have congresspersons pushing,
it's
like it's the DOJ that's hiding it.
Now,
so the DOJ is going to sue itself.
A sense,
I don't know.
Of as we are going through
It's
these
a real,
files,
we are asking the investigators to investigate themselves and find wrongdoing moment.
Making in the coming hours. We are, of course, going to be interested in anything that is new, anything that might be revelatory about high-profile names, big people in public life. Again, though, it is incredibly challenging to try to report on some of these images and documents because there is so much context that is missing. But again, here we have what appear to be never before seen photos of Jeffrey Epstein in both of Bill Clinton, in Jeffrey Epstein's presence and Ghislaine Maxwell's presence. Again, we don't know the context around these photos when they were even taken.
All right, MJ, thanks so much. Please flag us down when you have more. Let's bring back Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald.
U.S. launches missiles
what's your take on these Clinton photos that have been released?
It's just hard to know. We don't know when they were taken or where they were taken, under what circumstances. But of course, the more that we see photos of him, the more questions with Epstein and in Epstein's houses, or we don't know where they are. And I think it just raises more questions about how close he was with Epstein, and the fact that, at some point he had to have known what Epstein's, crimes were. I mean, he had been accused for a long time, and it was known he was accused of molesting underage girls. So I think that, these raise more questions that I think he probably will be asked about these photos.
Okay, Brown, thank you so much. We're going to sneak in a quick break. We'll be right back with more on this developing story, the Epstein.
Okay. Apparently, while we were having this conversation, or while the dumps were coming in, earlier today, U.S. forces commenced Operation Hawkeye Strike in Syria to eliminate ISIS fighters' infrastructure and weapon sites in direct response to the attack on U.S. forces that occurred on December 13th in Palmyra, Syria. As you recall, 2 U.S. troops in Syria were killed by ISIS fighters. This is not the beginning of a war. It's a declaration of vengeance. The United States of America, under President Trump's leadership, will never hesitate and never relent to defend our people. As we said directly following the savage attack, if you target Americans anywhere in the world, you will spend the rest of your brief, anxious life knowing the United States will haunt you, find you, and ruthlessly kill you. Today, we hunted and killed our enemies, lots of them. We will continue. Yeah, except of course, if you are an international pedophile hurting American girls alongside very famous, financial criminals and whatnot, then we won't do anything about it. Why didn't they do this when Israel killed American soldiers? I mean, I think you know why. This one looks strange. What? I don't even understand. This is doodles from Epstein? Is that what it is? Seems like a bunch of Epstein doodles. Maybe ISIS should have avoided being killed by doing pedophilia instead. I mean, they were just not doing it the right way, the Epstein way, I guess. Picture 991 box of hard drives. Yes, we saw, chatter. I saw. God damn. I saw, dude. I don't know why you want me to look at a fucking box of hard drives. Yes, I know. He documented everything extensively. There are photos of him with fucking floppy disks and shit too. Also, Kevin Spacey and Bill Clinton here. Oh yeah, the smiley art is also unique, because the steeplechase face was the mascot of the historic Steeplechase Park, the first of 3 amusement parks in Coney Island, Brooklyn. This was in Jeffrey Epstein's home. Okay, this was in Jeffrey Epstein's home in one of the photos. This weird face that you see every now and then. An exaggerated smile, which has 44 visible teeth. The image conveys simple fun, but it was also observed by cultural critics to have an undercurrent of Victorian-era repressed sexuality. There's a veneer of hidden sexuality. Okay? Now, the reason why this is crazy is because in 1966, real estate developer Fred Trump, Donald Trump's father, destroyed the park in an unsuccessful attempt to create condos on the site. During the demolition, Trump handed out bricks to the public, encouraging visitors to throw them at the glass steeplechase face. And I think this face might be recovered from the park. So maybe Donald Trump gave the steeplechase face to Jeffrey Epstein as a gift from the time when his dad actually demolished the park. I don't know. Epstein threatening to burn someone's house down if they revealed the stolen photos of young girls and sold them and had other photos taken. Click alt text if you can't read. How do you click alt text on desktop? I don't know how to do that. Complainant staged that she is a professional artist and took pictures of her sisters 12 and 14 years for her own personal artwork. Epstein stole the photos and negatives and is believed to have sold the pictures to potential buyers. Epstein at one time requested Bleep to take pictures of young girls at swimming pools. Epstein is now threatening Bleep that if she tells anyone about the photos, he will burn her house down. Stated. Complainant stated, not stayed. Yeah, this is Jeffrey Epstein, character of cases, child pornography. Oh, this is how you... Okay, well, I already read it. Oh, fuck. This is from 1996, by the way. Yeah, this is from the first... this is information that was also compiled, I think, in the first investigation. And for the record, they knew all this shit, and he still got away with it. They knew all this shit, and they let him out on work release. This has never happened, okay? There's a photo of Ivanka in the Epstein files. Wait, what? Really? Careful, some files are limit CP on DOJ website. No, there is no CSAM in the fucking files. Are you kidding me? The Department of Justice, that's fake law. I mean, that doesn't really prove anything, even if he had a photo of fucking Ivanka regardless. But that's nothing, okay? Who gives a fuck about what that person is posting? Lock in, okay? Listen, what I was saying is the government is not going to put child sexual abuse material or upload it because they have a process where if they identify something as child sexual abuse material, they don't even upload, they don't even scan it. They just have a slip that says CSAM image. Like, it's not even redacted. So in instances where there is CSAM in the files, and there are plenty of instances where there is child sexual abuse material in the files, they don't even scan the child sexual abuse material.
Charge, not charge, investigate, or decline to investigate Epstein or his associates. That's the exact language of this law that is required to be turned over. And really, Jake, as you know, and Julie Brown, who you just had on, knows, that's really one of the biggest questions here. Why on earth?
Someone in the chat said, what the fuck, why? What the fuck, why would the Department of Justice have a separate policy of handling child sexual abuse material? Think. Hello? Why would they digitize child sexual abuse material? Child sexual abuse material is the most illegal thing, okay? Of course they're not going to fucking digitize it if it only exists as a hard evidence, as a piece of hard evidence.
Well, I haven't had a chance to review it other than the report I saw just a little bit before coming on that you covered. But I'm not surprised. There's going to be obviously photos released. There's going to be financial records, flights, manifest release. So we're going to obviously dig into the details here. As I've said from the very beginning, anyone who was involved in the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein.
Digitizing child sexual abuse material that was like photographed would also be illegal in and of itself. You would be procuring child sexual abuse material, which is a crime.
If there is evidence that comes out through this release of anyone, whether they be in government or entertainment or
Hassan, this proves you wrong. It's
the financial
redacted.
World, they should be prosecuted.
So,
we
no,
will
this
see
means that they're not.
What obviously.
No, this means they're adults, chatter.
Searchable database with hundreds.
Jeffrey Epstein had adult victims and child victims. This implies that the victims photographed here are adults whose identities were protected. Okay? If it was a child in a similar situation like that, in a photo like that, it would literally just say, it would have a slip that said CSAM.
The law also said that the database had to be searchable, and the database, at least last time I checked, it was not searchable. Does it bother you that the Justice Department is not abiding by the law that President Trump signed 30 days ago?
Did they reveal the magician was? What do you mean?
Look,
Isn't
I
it
think
David Blaine?
They obviously should comply fully with the law. I think given the volume of documents, I assume they have a lot of people working on redacting where appropriate within the law and going through each of these documents to make sure that they are released appropriately. I would venture once the grand jury transcripts were court-ordered released and they have to go through that added significant volume here in terms of having to go through the documents. So, look, I think they need to obviously comply expeditiously, and I do believe that's their intent. And
good luck telling this administration they need to comply,
in full
Lawler.
Today. But given the volume, I'm not sure how realistic that really was within 30 days of the law being signed.
Your fellow New York Republican, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, just announced that not only is she bowing out of the race for governor of New York, which you were going to do
House
as
Manager's
well.
report from David Copperfield's show,
She's not
noting
even
that
gonna
patrons
run for
found the show
re-election
sophomoric,
in the
amateurish, and the
House.
same as
Now
last
that
year's. A
there
woman
is
also
an
complained that she
opening,
couldn't find her husband
are you
after
going to throw
Copperfield
your
made
hat
him
back
disappear.
into the ring and run for governor?
Well, first, let me say Elise Stefanik has been a tremendous congresswoman. She certainly would have made a great governor. And
Yeah. I don't care about fucking Elise Stefanik. Okay, she sucks, and of course she bailed out, and she was going to lose anyway. Also, here is Adam Schiff. Part of the consequences, I think, frankly, of Chief Justice Roberts giving the president absolute immunity when it comes to his instructions to the DOJ. He can pretty much order them to do what he wants, and no, he will never be held criminally liable.
Are you at all surprised by the lack of production today?
I'm surprised by the magnitude of it. I'm not surprised that they're withholding information. Part of this is a consequence, I think, frankly, of Chief Justice Roberts giving the president absolute immunity when it comes to his instructions to the Justice Department. So he can pretty much order them to do what he wants and knows that he will never be held at least criminally liable. So I'm not surprised that they're withholding. I am surprised at the magnitude of it.
Yeah, they are straight up in violation of the law as of like later tonight. Section 1 short title, this act may be cited as the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Remember, Donald Trump signed this. It's his own law that he signed, okay? That said that the DOJ would release all unclassified, not later than 30 days after the date of enactment of this act, the Attorney General shall, subject to subsection B, make publicly available in a searchable and downloadable format all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials in the possession of the Department of Justice, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation and United States Attorney's Office that relate to the Epstein files. Okay? So that's where we're at. Obviously we know how these things work. It's, the law is irrelevant here. Whatever Donald Trump wants to do was what's more important. Under Trump mentioned in the second and sixth line under remarks, where is it? Oh, here it is. And then here again, remarks, procedures, maneuvers, endorsements. I mean, this is old stuff though. I think it's the aircraft. This is an extension of the flight logs. It's nothing new as far as Donald Trump's involvement goes. I'm telling you, dude, I think that this is all, that's the flight manifest, right? So that's all stuff that was already available.
Capacity of it, the plain statement by Blanche that they're withholding hundreds of thousands of documents.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how much Donald Trump would be all over these files to begin with, okay? But his behavior made it seem like he was all over this shit. And the very fact that he's not in it at all, seemingly, there is far more Bill Clinton in here than there is Donald Trump. Okay? So far, from what we have seen, there is a fuck ton more Bill Clinton in here than there is Donald Trump. That's suspicious because we know that Donald Trump was directly affiliated and directly a part of the Epstein stuff, at least leading up to the first investigation, which would absolutely be featured in the second investigation as well. So the very fact that there's nothing of Trump in here at all, nothing new, not even like old stuff that we know that's supposed to be here, is a little bit confusing and certainly invites some scrutiny as to how much they redacted Trump out of this directly. And none of Trump's orbiters really are all over this as well. Also a little suspicious, a little weird.
that might be just the tip of the iceberg. So yes, that does surprise me. It's a kind of in your face, we will ignore the law as we choose. We will go at our own pace. Whether we provide things at all will be up to us. It's a kind of arrogance, a kind of drunkenness with power that believes you can ignore the law without any peril.
Some slip through. Yeah, I know. I saw that. Maybe Trump's DOJ missed these photos of him in a desk drawer at Epstein's townhouse. Trump with Melania and Ghislaine. Trump with what looks like 4 scantily clad ladies. Yeah, that's what's so... That's interesting, too, because, like, the only new Trump photos that we have seen were literally in Jeffrey Epstein's drawer, and it almost feels like they just forgot to redact that because it wasn't the primary focus of the photo at all, and it just kind of slipped through. Bill Clinton was just closer to Epstein than Trump from everything we know. No. I know 100%. But Trump was pretty fucking close too. The expectation here is that, yes, of course there is going to be a shit ton of Bill Clinton here. And what is surprising to me is that there isn't more direct evidence of people who entertain the company of sex trafficked adults and sex trafficked minors, okay, who are criminals themselves. Nothing that ties them together. Back to Jeffrey Epstein. That's odd. And then also a lot less Trump all over these files than one would expect, given that he was still a close associate, especially in the first half, especially leading up to the first investigation. Remember, this is the second Jeffrey Epstein investigation, which will feature a fuck ton of information from the first investigation that we never actually saw as well, considering that they're just like releasing the files in its entirety. So the notion that there isn't any Trump at all, or very little Trump in this tranche of data, is strange. Now, Thomas Massey might be able to speak on that, and maybe he'll say, no, Trump wasn't that involved here. It's not that big of a deal. He has so far criticized the release. The reason why I say this is because his claim was, after cooperating with the witnesses and cooperating with the victims, talking to the victims specifically, if all of the data is released from the Epstein investigation, as is supposed to be by law, there would be 20 to 25 new people that would be outed as sex criminals. 20 to 25 men that would be outed as sex criminals. So if 20 to 25 men are not outed as sex criminals in the aftermath of the release of all these files, that means that means that they redacted their names. That's what he said. Okay? Do you think Trump is an actual pedo and they're covering, or is he just a different kind of demon? I mean, it could be. There's at least like enough. Oh yeah, this is in Epstein's closet. The IDF, the Israel Defense Force sweater was in his closet. We already saw that. But there's also photos of him wearing that one. So that's not new either. Maybe because Trump is under investigation currently? What? No, dude. What? No, Trump's DOJ is not going to be the DOJ that investigates Trump, okay? What leads you to believe that they would ever fucking investigate Donald Trump? There's tickets here. There's a passenger ticket, Delta Air. Damn, it was $50. Oh, this is for baggage check. Ghislaine called out. Larry, redacted, would like to speak to you. Page 24. Oh, for Mr. Wexner, Les Wexner, from Mr. Epstein, 2 pages, including cover. Fax sent. Result jammed. They don't have it in stock. 10 to 12 week wait. Manager will be in tomorrow, so you can call her in the morning and see if they will give us the one from the floor. 2 ottomans, 2 chairs, sofa. P.S. I gave them shipping address with your name on it. No, it's just, I mean, this is probably furniture chat. Judging by the way that these guys communicated with one another when they were actually doing pedophilia and sex trafficking, I don't suspect that this is actually code for pedophilia and sex trafficking. Because if it was, he would just straight up say it. He would just literally write, I'm sending, young girls under the age of 18 to your home. Okay? If there's one thing we found out from all of the email correspondence and also now the uncovered Jeffrey Epstein, the uncovered Jeffrey Epstein shit. Yeah, look, I have a female for him. I have 2 females for him, or I have a female for him. He does not. These guys did not try to do OPSEC at all. Okay? They did not try to do OPSEC at all on this stuff. Turns out all the 4chan QAnon shit was bullshit. Who would have thought that they were not even trying to remotely cover their tracks? They were very open about the pedophilia that they were engaging in. They would just straight up say, like, young girl sending your way, or even in certain instances say stuff like, this girl is not young. You lied to me. Dude, is this Trump? Is it Bill Gates? What the fuck? It's just a baby. What? Dude, what? I can't even show this. There's just a photo of a baby. Oh, a baby sitting naked in a sink. I don't know if I should show this, but they censored the baby's face, but I think the baby's face is the face of an adult. Because I can't tell, but all right, whatever. I'm going to look away from this. That looks insane. But clearly the censors didn't consider that to be CSAM or something. So they just, but they did actually censor the face. So that's strange. Okay. That's why I'm saying don't assume their CSAM policy is consistent. I suspect it is. Here's another one. It's an adult. Open off screen. No, this is not an adult. That's a baby's body sitting in the sink. You just sent it to me. I don't know why you keep saying it's an adult. Audio out of sync for anyone else? No. What the fuck? Anyway.
But also the Michael
Sky News is
Jacksons,
still
the
diving
Mick
into
Jaggers,
it.
all of these figures.
Also, before I forget, this is a good time to remind people, the Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. Your subscriptions in the form of a $6 a month subscription or a free one in the form of a Twitch Prime is the only way to support the Piker Broadcasting Service. Twitch Primes are free, and you can use it here. Okay, Candace. Okay, give me a break. You can also gift subs to others if you would like. Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, for you. Thank you. There's videos in the files. You should show them. I showed one video with Pinker, Steven Pinker, but that's it. Mary Socialismus. Yeah, I saw this. Legal Heretic. Jesus Christ. Tinsid, thank you for the 10. Legal Heretic, thank you for the 25. Caked Up Bot, thank you for the 10. Thelonious Funk, thank you for the 10 gifted. Dread2 Max, thank you for the 5 gifted. Meth Surfy, thank you for the 10 gifted as well. Goddamn. Dread2 Max, thank you for the 5. Tinsid, thank you for the 10. I just cannot believe that the Democrats really have Bill Clinton fly out to Michigan to explain to voters why they should vote for Kamala. Yeah, while also simultaneously lecturing them about how it's actually called Judea and Samaria, for the record, which is so insane. Oh, yeah, it's Judea and Samaria, by the way. And for the record, that is part of the reason why they didn't even fucking attack Trump on his Epstein association. They could have hit Trump on the Epstein affiliation. There was a story that came out. There was literally a fucking story that came out from Michael Wolff, who was talking about was talking about how, like, Jeffrey Epstein was constantly chirping about how much him and Trump were still in contact with one another. And everybody kept asking, like, why are the Democrats not using this? Why are the Democrats not using this as a line of attack against Donald Trump? The Democrats are going to get pummeled if they don't actually fucking, the Democrats are going to get pummeled if they don't actually use this as a line of attack against Donald Trump. Well, we know why. It's because they thought they would, if they thought that they, invited any sort of scrutiny around Jeffrey Epstein to the fucking conversation, they were worried that the Trump team would just go, no, you guys, you're besties with Bill Clinton. You're way more connected to Jeffrey Epstein than we are. What the fuck are you talking about? Except Bill Clinton wasn't running for office. Donald Trump was. So why the fuck did they just not drop Bill Clinton and go, yeah, you guys are both assholes? Instead, they held on to the carcass of Bill Clinton, even shipped his ass to Dearborn, even shipped his ass to Michigan to lecture the Arab voters there and the voters who care about Palestine there that it was actually Judea and Samaria. Great stuff. Well, here we have it now. Donald Trump is president, and the Epstein files are finally, being released in a redacted fashion. Pizzagate. If you replace the word hot dog with little boy and pizza party with child sex orgy, you will see the lengths these elites go to cover up their crimes. Real elite emails. Send me nude pictures of those 8th graders we abused last weekend. Post haste. I am the ambassador to Turkey. It's true. I mean, I made this joke as well yesterday. There is no fucking, there is no hiding. If there's one thing we found out from the way that these guys communicate with one another, they're very open about their crimes. They constantly take photos of themselves doing crimes and sometimes not doing crimes. There's no instance where these guys don't document themselves together because they felt as though they were untouchable. And to a certain degree, they are untouchable, especially considering the fact that we still don't know who some of these people were that were engaging in illicit acts with both minors and adults that were sex trafficked. So obviously, they are low-key kind of untouchable still to this day, to this moment, to this very moment. The very fact that this evidence has been in the hands of law enforcement for decades at this point, and they've just allowed these fucking people to roam free and do whatever they want, potentially do more of the same style of crimes that they engaged in with Jeffrey Epstein, is evidence that they are untouchable. So the feeling wasn't crazy.
Harming their own man. And I think that's one way.
I want to see how the Fox
strategy.
I mean,
and
this
it would
one,
be to get
I will
all the
say
chat
this much.
about
I want to see how Fox is covering this, but
to get the focus
this has been
on
quite
political
the
opponents
advantageous
like Bill
data
Clinton.
drop so
He's
far.
The man
So
who
I
looms
assume
largest, as far as I
Fox
can see,
News
in
will
terms
probably
of
cover this with glee.
figures. He looms large. Several.
Never mind, they're not even talking about it. They're
several
talking about
images of
Coldplay
Bill
canoodling,
Clinton,
woman from Kiss
who-
Camp scandal
who will
speaks
feature,
out.
I don't doubt, on the front pages tomorrow. I mean,
On the day of the Epstein file release, where Donald Trump's War Department bombed Syria with unprecedented disapproval over the economy and whatnot, in the aftermath of the Brown shooter being found dead, this is what they are choosing to cover: the canoodling, the Coldplay canoodling. That's awesome. I guess they have to do the bidding of Donald Trump, even though the tranche that was revealed is noticeably taking the attention away from Trump's potential involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. They're still not talking about it at all. Great stuff.
probably among them who will say, well, hang on a minute. Yeah, I knew the guy, but so did everybody. Mick Jagger knew him. Diana Ross knew him. Michael Jackson knew him. You know, all these national treasures kept the company of Jeffrey Epstein. I did merely as an innocent. I can see that being the White House line come publication number 2. But right now, what we have is the story about...
They talked about it earlier. You just have to use your desktop rewind feature. No, the desktop rewind feature only works if you subscribe to the Hasanabi broadcast at twitch.tv/Hasanabi, the Piker Broadcasting Service. Unfortunately, I do not have a desktop rewind feature for Fox News on this website that restreams Fox News. Is your phone vibrating, dude? No, there's noise coming from the outside chatters. Obviously, it's not my fucking phone vibrating. You know? You can hear the street. It's through the noise gate because it's very fucking loud.
James
Comer, this is what Congress overwhelmingly voted for, and I applaud the Trump administration for complying with this request and getting these documents so everyone can lay eyes on them and judge themselves on who the bad guys are. Yep.
Homer. Congressman, I understand that you have already seen much of what is being...
Yeah, bro, they're doing a victory lap. They're doing a fucking victory lap because they're like, oh, yep, there's all this evidence that we did not want you to see for the longest time. It turns out the redacted files show that the Republicans are noticeably absent from this. Jeffrey Epstein, just a Democrat ploy.
being released today. Is that correct? And what have you seen?
Well, we've seen a lot of documents. What I think's not been accurately understood by most Americans is the Trump Department of Justice. They have released several thousand pages of documents. Now, what they've released in the last 30 minutes is another several 100,000 pages, some of which we may have already had, but we're going through them as we speak. It'll take several days to go through all of these documents, but this is what the American people wanted. This is what Congress overwhelmingly voted for, and I applaud.
No, I don't think this was what Congress overwhelmingly voted for. Congress voted, and the American people wanted the unredacted files You know, all the files, not some of the files, not the files after they went through and just potentially deleted some of the criminals and Donald Trump.
The Trump administration for complying with this request and getting these documents so that everyone can lay eyes on them and judge for themselves who the bad guys are in this whole disastrous.
I don't think this is going to work. I mean, I think maybe it's good enough. I think maybe it's good enough for some of the dumbest people. Kaya, no. Place. Kaya. Place. My neck. Good girl. Sorry, she's trying to, and she's like, there's a bunch of stuff over here to the left side that she's like about to fucking boulder over. Do you think they counted Trump as a victim in the file so they can redact them? I mean, maybe. He accidentally tasered himself. Yeah, I have the taser on my neck. Every time I say place, I actually taser myself. All right. So the Epstein files are not complete, comically redacted, not in the searchable format. The Trump-Vance administration had months to recover from the embarrassing influencer Biden photo op, and this is what they came up with. This is what they think of you. Exactly. You and Kirk for real twinning today? Yeah, we are. My Kirk is fucked up, dude. Fox News Digital found that Trump's DOJ redacted politically exposed individuals and government officials in defiance of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The redactions, however, were not applied to former President Bill Clinton. Epstein files explode open as DOJ details discovery of powerful figures of more than 1,200 victims. More than a dozen politically exposed people and government officials' names appear in the hundreds of thousands of Jeffrey Epstein files made public Friday, sources said. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the DOJ discovered more than 1,200 victims and their families during the exhaustive review, explained the process behind determining which files could be released in a letter to Congress exclusively obtained by Fox News Digital. Sources told Fox News Digital that the new photos of Epstein with former President Bill Clinton are a part of the release. The Justice Department redacted the names and identifiers of the victims. Fox News Digital has learned that the same redaction standards were applied to politically exposed individuals and government officials. Oh, Fox News Digital exclusively obtained a letter written by Blanche to members of the House of Representatives regarding Friday's anticipated release of the files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act. We write to notify you that today the Department of Justice is producing hundreds of thousands of pages of responsive materials in compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump and Attorney General Pam Bondi, this unprecedented disclosure highlights our commitment to following the law, being transparent, and protecting victims, except for politically exposed people. Blanche continued, noting that the production of documents comes within 30 days required. Never in American history, blah, blah, blah. He's just glazing Trump and Pam Bondi. Okay. The law allows the DOJ to omit or redact any references to victims and files that could jeopardize pending investigations or litigation, such as the probe Bondi recently opened in New York to Epstein's ties to Democrats. Information could also be left out in the interest of national defense or foreign policy, the law says. Well, that's why you don't see a whole lot of Israel in here, huh? Meanwhile, in the letter obtained by Fox News Digital, Blanche revealed that the Justice Department, through its sprawling internal process, learned more than 1,200 victims. This resulted in 1,200 names being identified as victims or their relatives, Blanche wrote. We have redacted references to such names. In addition to redacting the names of these victims, we have also redacted and are not producing any materials that could result in their identification. Blanche explained that all unclassified records, documents, communications, and investigative materials that relate to Jeffrey Epstein, including all investigations, prosecutions, or custodial matters, are being released. Also being released are records relating to Ghislaine Maxwell, flight logs, or travel records. The DOJ is releasing any records or documents with individuals, including government officials named or referenced in connection with Epstein's criminal activities, civil statements, immunity or plea agreements, or investigatory proceedings. The documents would also reference any immunity deals, non-prosecution agreements, plea bargains, or sealed settlements involving Epstein or his associates, except no, it's not. As long as those people are connected to the administration or profiles connected to the administration or I guess people that are of national importance. Blanche said the DOJ is continuing to review additional documents and other items for potential responsiveness. Blanche pointed to a ruling in the Southern District of New York requiring additional layers of review to minimize the risk of inadvertent production of protected victim information. We anticipate this ongoing review being completed over the next several weeks. Blanche explained that prior to the passage of the new Epstein law, the DOJ conducted a thorough review, including digital searches of databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as searches of real and personal properties. This review did not reveal credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals. We investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing again. They found no evidence, no credible evidence that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals, nor did it uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. He added that judges in the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York have authorized the DOJ to produce materials previously prohibited from production by protective orders and grand jury secrecy laws. Blanche explained that the review protocol instructed attorneys to redact or withhold any material that contained personally identifiable information of victims, depicted or contained child sexual abuse materials, would jeopardize an active investigation or prosecution, depicted images of death, physical abuse, or injury, and properly classified national defense or foreign policy information. Protecting victims is the highest priority for President Trump, the Attorney General, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Department of Justice, Blanche wrote. Yeah, I don't think so. As a part of the review and production, the department solicited counsel for any victims of Jeffrey Epstein and invited counsel to provide us with names of victims, whether previously identified or not. Blanche said the Justice Department's review team consists of more than 200 DOJ attorneys working to determine whether the materials were responsive under the Act. The review had multiple layers, including 187 attorneys from DOJ's National Security Division conducting a review of all items for responsiveness. Next, a quality control team of 25 attorneys conducted a second level review. Yeah, national defense and foreign policy related people are not being identified in this and are being redacted, I guess. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, is not a part of the people. I'm dumb. What does this all mean? It's pretty obvious. Fox News Digital found that Trump's DOJ redacted politically exposed individuals and government officials in defiance of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. The redactions, however, were not applied to former President Bill Clinton. Yeah. The Justice Department redacted the names and identifiers of victims. Fox News Digital has learned that the same redaction standards were applied to politically exposed individuals and government officials. What's confusing to me is why Fox News Digital is actually releasing this information or revealing this information. Okay? But it is crazy that they're just like, oh, this is a politically exposed individual. I did suspect that this could happen. If you recall, I talked about this before, where it was like, despite the mutually assured pedo destruction technique, remember when I said one of the ways in which they could reveal this stuff is just like hammer on the Bill Clinton angle or whoever Donald Trump's enemies are on the liberal side, and then basically fucking redact everybody else that's an affiliate or a known affiliate of the administration, Trump himself, or why did you block her? That's a Fox News Digital correspondent. I think that's written extensively on me, I assume. Wait, what the fuck? Wait, hold on. Is this one of the redacted photos of a politically exposed individual? I mean, we don't know if it's Trump or not. Osborne accounts pushing this angle. Epstein and Qatar. Yesterday, House Dems released a new batch of photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate. In the least surprising development ever, 2 images show Qatari royal family Sheikh Jabor Al Thani alongside the villain. What's Qatar doing there? Okay. Listen, if I'm a pro-Israel account, I'm probably not talking about Jeffrey Epstein's foreign entanglements, especially in the Gulf region, you know? Kind of, you really want to do that? You really want to do that? That's what you want to do? It's kind of crazy that you're getting maybe a little too cocky here, don't you think? Dude living in a glass house. It's not even, it's a broken down glass house. It's not even like you're throwing stones. You're throwing pebbles from a house that's basically already broken down. That's crazy. Hey guys, quick, look at Qatar, says the guy defending Israel on the timeline on the Jeffrey Epstein story. I mean, what are we doing here? I think everyone and their mother has either a suspicion or full knowledge of the level of ties that Jeffrey Epstein had to Israel at this point.
Damn, this guy's good.